everybody. Welcome to Frame Trap on this very festive. Thank you to Ian Hink for decorating this. He did it for the podcast, and we're just keeping it on for Frame Trap. Joining me this episode is Michael Huber at the end there.
Hello.
Daniel Bloodworth, right in between us. And I'll be hosting you through this, Ben Moore. For the opening gambit here.
Gambit.
Yeah. Connect
Love
card.
Gambit.
I want to talk about it's a stressful time. I think it's a stressful time for us because it's review season. Yeah, you're feeling it.
Yeah.
I think it's just a stressful time in general. I think, coming up on the holidays, there's a lot of just things to think about, and it's just a busy time.
Mm-hmm.
Busy isn't bad, but it's stressful.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know, what are your ways of dealing with stress?
Tis the season. Been watching some horror movies. Been watching some horror to kind of just...
Horror eases your stress.
Yeah, it sucks me into that world. Like horror is so... It just every time I watch it, if it's good, it just consumes me. So I actually went back and watched... I'm on the finale now of Haunting of Hill House.
Yes.
Missed it.
That show is good.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
So good. And then watched a movie called Kill List. So the way I heard about this, long story, very short, Tomb Raider 2 got announced, a sequel, and it's going to be
the Tomb Raider movie.
The Tomb Raider movie, yeah.
Right, okay.
Tomb Raider 2 gets announced, and this director named Ben Wheatley. I saw some people making, Ben Wheatley's doing Tomb Raider 2, awesome. It's like, what's he done? And I've never really seen any of his movies, but he's done quite a bit. So I went back and I watched Kill List, which is one of his earlier movies, and it's horror. But it's cool horror in the way that it's mainly a British crime movie, but then it's also horror. So if people don't like horror and they like British crime movies or something, maybe check this one out. But
Kill List,
really cool movie.
That is
really, really intense.
I feel like you're a big fan of the short names. Kill List is such a good Huber name.
90-minute movie, straight to the point.
Yeah.
Super tense.
You did make me realize something, and maybe I was aware of this, but you definitely brought it up fresh in my mind, where I think that is something that is kind of relaxing about horror movies, because I'm not as steeped in horror as you do, but I definitely get into my moods where I'm I want horror. And I think you're right. I think it's because because of the intensity of what's going on.
How can you not just be...
It draws you in, and I think it takes you away from, whatever you're worried about or stressed about. I think that is definitely a quality of horror. Yeah. Blood, how do you deal with stress?
I don't know that I intentionally try to deal with stress.
Never stressed?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of the basics, go for a walk and get some sunshine for, even just 5 minutes, cook something, I think that's one of the things is just you just shift your brain into a different mode, so you're just not focused on the same thing. So even if you just go out and do the dishes, you find yourself de-stressed because you're not thinking about anything, you're just focused on what you're doing at the moment, working with your hands or whatever.
Blood, I totally agree.
Nice.
I think as I've gotten older, I've taken more joy in very simple things where you're okay, this problem is overwhelming me, but I also need to clean the apartment, so I'll do that. And it just seems like something that seems more solvable, and so you gravitate toward it, I think, a little bit more easily, for sure. Yeah, I definitely agree with it. I've also enjoyed eating more as I've gotten older. I feel like in my younger days, it was just eating was just something you did in between the fun, you know, and so it was just kind of a chore. I don't there was food that I liked and stuff, but now it's just looking forward to a nice good meal.
Yeah,
is really exciting.
Ramen
for sure.
Yeah.
Ramen for sure. All right. We've got a lot of games to talk about. We got a lot of big games.
It's October.
To talk about.
Big hitters.
Yeah. We were actually planning out upcoming frame traps on the meeting. We do a meeting every month, and I was like, oh yeah, we're even if we have nothing else to talk about, this huge giant game will be enough for frame trap. I'm sure we'll talk about other things as well, but
October, and I was making fun of like around the 13th or something. Like people were still announcing games coming out in October. I'm like, why? Don't you see how many games are already come out? Don't you announce your game coming out in October right now? Don't do it. And then
Come out in January.
Even a couple of days ago, they're still doing it.
You're really gonna freak out once you start getting those Game Awards shadow drops.
Oh yeah.
But a shadow drop is different. Like there's an event there. There's like something happening, and then like you please the crowd, and everybody's happy, and it's cool. But like when you just like Manifold Garden, right?
Mm-hmm.
Saw that game at E3, reported on it in 2016. It's a cool game. Looking forward to it. Saw it, kept in development, and saw it was E3 again this year. Cool. Very cool. You know, it'd be nice to see when that game comes out. On a Wednesday. Hey, the game's coming out on Friday. Just a random Wednesday.
Might as well shadow drop it at that point, right? Just come out that day.
Maybe, Blood, you can inform me on this, because I definitely feel like for smaller games, sometimes that happens with the release date, where it doesn't get announced until very close to when it comes out. And I have to wonder if it's just they don't know, you know, because maybe it's such a small team, like they won't know or won't figure it out until the game's just about ready to release. But yeah, I've definitely had games sneak up on me like that. I feel like Blasphemous was kind of that, where it was just like, okay, I'm aware of it, it looks really cool, and then just like all of a sudden it's out. Yeah.
Still on my list. Still on my queue.
Well, again, going back to our meeting.
I need to go back to Blasphemous.
Going back to our meeting, you know, like planning, like there's some of the games is like, well, that game is out in November.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to cover it? It depends on when it actually comes out.
There are like 12 games right now that I want to extremely play.
12?
Like at least.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
There's too many.
I'm sure if you gave me some time,
Like,
right.
Gosh.
Right. Speaking of games, Hubert, I think we're going to start with Call of Duty Modern Warfare. And I think part of the reason we're going to start with Call of Duty Modern Warfare is I feel like, because you went to a review event for Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and I feel like in some ways review events can be isolating experiences in the sense that like you just go and do it, and then you come back and you played more right for the review.
Yeah.
And then you just do it. And so I don't really know, because you were like away on assignment doing it. I don't really know how you feel about this game. Like we've talked about it a little bit, but I don't think like I was really part of the process.
Yeah.
We were kind of
usually we like soundboard.
Right.
Or like there's always that initial check-in when an ally is doing a review on a big game. It's like that first like, huh?
Yeah. Like I definitely asked you like, hey, did you like it? But it wasn't like the involved conversations that we usually get into. So let's get into an involved conversation. How do you feel about Modern Warfare?
I really like it.
You really like it?
I really like it.
So,
but disclaimer, I usually almost always like Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but this year feels particularly strong. Feels like just really, really good compared to previous years. Obviously, there's the campaign, which is the big change from Black Ops. You know, they took a year off last year. But like even World War II's campaign, though, I really liked. So just coming into this one, I was like, you know, I didn't have that like thirst for the campaign like I usually do.
Yeah.
But it was really good, the campaign. I love the campaign. Do you want to start there? Do you want to?
Yeah, let's start with the campaign. I think especially because it's been a hot minute since a Call of Duty campaign.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe to open this up, the vibe that I got from you talking about what you saw and what Brandon talking about what he saw with Modern Warfare prior to release was the tone of the campaign and how serious they were making it. And it definitely seems like, from an outside perspective, that it's extremely serious, maybe tackling some tough situations.
Yeah.
How does that kind of play out throughout the whole thing?
So it's serious and never annoyingly serious. You know what I mean?
What would annoyingly serious be?
Just like, I don't know, it's kind of a double-edged sword actually, is because like the villain, I don't want to get into spoilers or anything, but like the villain is kind of like in the shadows a little bit, but also not a secret, not playing from the shadows. But like I guess they don't really focus on the villain.
You know what I just thought of as annoyingly serious? Far Cry 5 is annoying.
Annoyingly serious. There it is. Perfect.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
That is exactly what I mean. Far Cry 5 is annoyingly serious.
Yeah.
Yes. So this game just the whole way through it balances a really nice line of like really heavy missions where I'm actually feeling things of like, whoa, I'm like killing people, or whoa, these people are dying, like really getting that feeling.
Yeah.
But then also like Call of Duty fun missions where you're like running through, you know, pop, 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 killing people and like, you know, put on the night vision, throw the grenades. Like there's those kind of like action Hollywood moments. But then it also goes into like really slow moments where we're talking to the characters and like, you know, seeing different perspectives on things, you know, slower missions. So
this game, it's got good faces.
Really good.
When I watch your
the
review, I'm
graphics
like,
are
what the?
so good.
This is the game.
Yeah, the graphics are really good. All the missions have a really good variety to them as well. So like, again, like with the narrative, you know, some missions are way more action-packed, Hollywood style, running through, throwing grenades. Some are classic Call of Duty. You know, there's got to be a sniping mission. That's obviously not a spoiler. Of course, there's one. You know, some night ops. And I was impressed by how many times I was just like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. You know, like really kind of subverting my expectations with the mission design but when the mission was over, I was like, oh, like I saw what they did there. That's kind of clever. So just really good mission, really good variety, and likable characters. The cast is great. Obviously, you know, Price is back, who's kind of the main face of Modern Warfare. Price is back. And just the other characters involved. Like Farah is really strong. She's part of this fictional country. So there's a fictional country in Modern Warfare. It's not a real country, called Urzikstan. And she's kind of, you know, part of that storyline. And then you have kind of the CIA intervention. So just really, really solid all around campaign.
I want to, I guess, focus on what you're talking about with subverting your expectations with the mission design, because I think that is the thing that I get hung up on is where it's like, man, I enjoy playing Call of Duty, but sometimes it feels like if I look super close at it, it's like, yeah, this is different or that is different, or I tried something new here, but it's like playing so many of these games over so many years, right? Like that just, you start to feel like a diminishing return.
Totally. So I really hope this comes across in the review. There are times when it exactly feels like that, Ben, where I'm just like, okay, I have to be standing here, or like I'm like looking around, but the team is like, hurry up, come on, like come, you know, get on the roller coaster. So there's moments like that, but then there's moments where it's like, hey, kind of figure this out. Where it'll kind of give you a little area to figure out, or even a linear take on it, subverting expectations, is like a classic attack and defense scenario, or like where a mission would usually be about like defending a point. Well, now it's about like kind of going out and exploring and then coming back. So they do kind of different things with traditional objectives. They kind of mix those up a lot, which I really like.
Cool. When you say figure out an area, are you...
So not like puzzles, but like, hey, plant these bombs in these locations.
Okay.
You're free to do it.
You know, it's not like the classic Call of Duty, like, hey, here's a yellow outline.
Correct.
Go put it there exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a little bit of freedom. Like, again, we're not like open world or anything. It's not like, you know, Deus Ex. There's not like 7 different ways to do it, but it does take its hands off the wheel for you to kind of get in there. And then I talk about it in the review. It's a later game mission. So if you're sensitive to spoilers, maybe tune out for this part. I won't go too into it. Very gonna dance around it. But there's a mission later where you have to find someone in a really big environment. Yeah. And it's amazing. You can shoot out like every single light. So you can shoot out the lights and like cover in darkness.
It almost sounds like you're describing Hitman.
Yeah, or like a Metal Gear mission. Like you can stealth and take people out, and it's really hands off, really top quality mission. There was like 2 or 3 specific missions in there that are easily among my favorite in Call of Duty, no doubt.
So, without obviously going into too much detail,
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel like as far as like the storytelling go? How do you feel it all came together?
Yeah. There were moments again where I felt things. Some pretty brutal moments in there. I think one of the main reasons that it kind of fell a little bit for me was the villain of it. Kind of the main villain, I guess you could say. Didn't do anything for me, and not interesting, not threatening, so there was no real threat, and I think that hurt the stakes for me.
I see.
Where it's like, okay, I'm part of this force, I'm trying to tackle these objectives and help these people and do all this, but like the threat was just generic. I didn't have stakes in that. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Maybe a slightly odd question, but did you feel like there was a lot of, I don't know, were there moments where you felt like you didn't have a lot of control? Like you said that it was nice that you had like these big areas where you had to find somebody and you had the choice to use stealth and you had a little bit more freedom when it came to planting bombs. But I think sometimes what's frustrating about Call of Duty is just like when you're so limited in what you can do that it's like, man, just let me play that game. Like that kind of general sensation of like, just let me play.
Yeah.
Did that come up at all?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely, again, some moments where it really, like, drives you. And moments, too, that are kind of annoying where it's like, and this has happened with every Call of Duty ever, where it's like you're running and gunning, taking everyone out, super soldier style, but, like, you went a little too far. You know, all of a sudden you're in this corner and there's, like, 15 enemies on you. And it's like, oh, I didn't really know that I wasn't, I was actually supposed to go that way.
Gotcha.
Like, those really action moments where you don't really have time to discern where the game wants you to go. You still find yourself kind of in those spots when you're just surrounded, you die, restart.
Sure.
So,
But it doesn't sound, based on, I guess, the tone of your description, it was too big of a problem.
No. Again, because I liked the characters and I liked the variety of everything.
Cool.
The story is just, it's really solid. The villain hurts it, again, because there's not really much there. And just, some top quality missions, for sure.
Talk to me about the multiplayer.
Multiplayer, for sure. And there's, I don't really want to have much to say about it, but there's a Spec Ops mode that's co-op, 4 players, continues kind of the story and like is story related. Really intense, really, really hard and difficult. You need 4 people working together very closely on the same page, taking people out. Build composition matters.
Yeah.
There's only a handful of these maps, so there's not too much there. But it is nice to be able to do a co-op mode with a group of friends, not against other people. Sorry, expect that.
No, that's cool. That was actually something, because I reviewed Black Ops 4. That was the most impressive thing for me walking away from Black Ops 4 was like, man, I like zombies. I like Blackout. I like multiplayer.
Yeah.
And the fact that I can bounce between them and I'm having a similar level of quality of time in all of them, I think is nice. It's nice to have, because I feel like there are times where you play a game where you're like, okay, well, this part's good, this part I could just forget about. It's nice to have something where all 3 or however many things there are kind of at an equal level.
Yeah.
But yeah, the multiplayer.
So the multi is awesome. And how deep do we want to get in this thing? Like, let's start with the basics. Some additions. You can mount now. You can mount your weapon.
Okay.
You need this in the campaign as well.
I immediately thght of MMO mounts.
No.
All right, so
you cannot
level
mount
40,
up.
you get your mount.
Yeah, you can't ride mounts, unfortunately.
You get a little golf cart.
Yeah. You can mount your weapon, which means when you're coming up on a corner, you can put it against the corner. R3 mounts it, and now you're on a swivel aiming, and you're covered. So you can use this offensively as you're like running up on a corner. You can do it, peek around. Your accuracy is better, and you're covered. So it is really smart. If you can get the drop on somebody mounted, it is really beneficial. Also, it can be used defensively. So like light machine guns now are really awesome. You can throw 100 magazine round or 100 magazine box in there. Just throw that up. all of a sudden we're Battlefield with a bipod, just like mowing people down. So the mounting mechanic is there. There's a super sprint. It's a little extra burst of speed. Doesn't change much. You just have a little extra utility to kind of bust that out. Long cooldown, very brief usage. You like hold your gun up in the air, so if you get caught out in the open, super sprinting, getting back, you're toast. So those are kind of the two really big additions. And you can like peek open doors. There's a lot of doors on maps now. There's a lot of ways. There's a lot of alleyways. You can really discover areas. It really feels like, oh, I'm actually in a really cool vantage point here. I feel a little safer than I usually do in a Call of Duty game. Like, I'm here. I'm going to mount up and...
Do you feel like that significantly slows things down?
Things are slower, for sure.
Okay.
People can still get nuts, and the kill streaks are back, and they can start coming in, kill streak. People can dominate, of course. But in general, things are a little slower. But World War II was like kind of slower too. So coming off Black Ops, obviously it's slower for sure.
Did you prefer, I guess, more of a traditional Call of Duty, like team deathmatch style thing, or did you find yourself gravitating more to the 2v2 mode?
Ben,
I forget the name of it.
Gunfight. Ben, Gunfight. I'm really glad you brought up Black Ops and the way it handled 3 distinct packages. I feel like that philosophy applies to Modern Warfare, but within multiplayer. So like Spec Ops is cool, but kind of a novelty. The campaign you'll finish in a weekend.
I see.
But the multiplayer has such a wide variety of modes. So you have the gunfight where like, oh, dude, I'm with a buddy tonight. Let's get some 2v2s going. Let's get nuts. Duos, hardcore, MLG gunfight.
Well, I like the variant you showed with the picking up the weapons.
Yeah.
Because that's just not a Call of Duty thing.
Totally.
Like you're always customizing weapons and stuff, and so like to be limited to what you can find is pretty cool.
Like OSP, Solid Snake on-site procurement.
And how much is that randomized? Is it like one of those things where people are going to rush to the good weapon and then you get them while they're going there?
Dude, it seems really random. From the like ton I've played of it, it seems pretty random. Like there's spots where the weapons are, so you're just going to run at the spot. And then like a random gun's going to show up, you grab it. But gunfight, again, super intense, 2v2, deathmatch, you can do like 6-on-6 or 10-on-10. And then you can go all the way up to ground war, which is like 64 players now, but potentially more, they said later. And that really felt like Battlefield this year.
Yeah, when you say 64, that's the first thing I think of.
Really, I when playing this, I was like, holy crap, this feels like I'm playing Battlefield.
Yeah.
Like I got up in a skyscraping window and put a gun turret in the stairwell and was just sniping from I was like, wow, I'm playing Battlefield. These are Battlefield tactics. So again, just a wide variety of multiplayer is really nice.
Do you think? I guess having that variety, and it sounds like you enjoyed all of them, that you think it's strong in a general sense.
Yeah.
Is there one where it was like, man, if all I did was play Call of Duty, like this would definitely be my go-to way to play it?
I think because I love Battlefield usually, I mean, at this very moment, Battlefield's kind of rough, but like I love Battlefield. I love like big open maps. I love the strategy and like trying to conquer a point and the vehicles and all that. So I think because I love Battlefield, for that reason, I'll always love Call of Duty for kind of the fast team deathmatch. Like, let's just get 12 or 20 people in here just running around, guns blazing.
So it sounds like Call of Duty has adapted to the increased size. Do you feel like the maps properly support this style?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
The
so
ground war
quality of maps is good.
Yeah, the ground war map gave me a Shanghai vibe from Battlefield 3. I mean, it's very similar, kind of reminding me of that, just like big structures, kind of the feel of it. And then the gunfight modes are just like paintball maps, really small, tight quarters. One of them is just the bathroom in The Rock. Like it actually is. And then, the deathmatch maps are really solid because, again, you can find strategic positions. There's a lot of like doorways and alleyways. Like the maps feel really, really good.
How do the guns feel?
The guns feel amazing.
What makes them feel amazing?
Obviously, Blood was talking about the visuals, how ridiculous they are. but the audio as well.
Mm.
Just like how good the sound, everything just sounds so intense. Like the kickback of everything, the weapons. Because there's so much customization now with the weapons. The gunsmith is a big thing. So guns are really customizable. You can do so many things to one particular weapon. So you can really like change it and kind of adapt it to your style. So that feels cool because the same gun can feel different depending on what I do to it, which is cool.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think the thing that is interesting about Call of Duty, interesting about anything that kind of is popular for a really long time is I think about Modern Warfare and how that just changed the game. Like it changed the entire game industry. I mean, people were like desperately trying to make as many Call of Duty clones as possible, and just what it was doing with loadouts, and it was a
XP even.
XP,
yeah,
dude.
Exactly.
Leveling up in Call of Duty, dude.
Yeah, yes.
Crazy.
Yes. What it was doing in terms of its systems, it was just this kind of transformative game. But I find that as Call of Duty has gone on, even if it's like really, really good, the competition is just so fierce that it's not that it doesn't do well. It's not that it doesn't grab an audience, but people seem to move on. Yeah. And of course, not everyone, but I'm just saying in a general sense that it is not capture a wide amount of attention for as long as it feels like it used to. Do you think this Call of Duty can do that? Do you think that this is like so good that it's kind of punctured through a lot of the noise?
I think it's going to be really hard for anything to kind of recapture that height. If something was that big, you can only be that big for so long, it feels like, especially when you're annual. You know, Call of Duty comes
the
out
thing to me. Like and the main reason I really haven't been playing them is just
every year.
It becomes like background noise in an odd way. It's like
it's
there
routine.
It is again, you know, and like you're saying, it's not that it's bad.
Yeah.
It's just that like, well, that's there when I'm ready for it.
Exactly.
I guess.
Yeah.
And I've got other things to play that are more, you know, less frequent.
It's routine. It's not special because we're just getting it every single year, I feel like. Whereas something like Assassin's Creed that's coming out every year, at least it's kind of a continuing storyline, you know, so we're invested in what is going to happen next. Whereas like refresh every year, starting over, but the same formula, basically, you know, kind of,
right.
Just kind of, it's not as special. But this Call of Duty feels refined. It feels excellent for what Call of Duty is.
Right.
If you've been away for a while, what a great time to come back. If you haven't left, this is great. So,
right. Yeah. I think something that's really encouraging that you're saying that you didn't get with Black Ops 4 is I remember how disappointed people were with the single player campaign. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of people are excited about it now. If you're that kind of person, if you're the kind of person that only plays the campaign, is this good enough? Does this have enough in it to justify a $60 purchase? If that's it. If you're just like, I'm just a campaign guy.
Dude, I don't know. That's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, like because I'm a campaign guy. I'm a campaign guy.
Right.
But at least I play the multiplayer for like a couple months. Like I'm always a 2-monther with Call of Duty. I'm going to play through Christmas. After Christmas break is usually when I put it away, but I'm there for that Christmas double XP weekend, dude. Sign me up.
Yeah.
But 60 for just the campaign is just too short. You know, it's like 5 to 7 hours. The campaign is excellent, mostly. But it'd be a hard recommendation if you just play the campaign and hard quit.
Sure. Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question talking about because we've spent last Frame Trap, we talked a lot about Blizzard's response to kind of the Blitzchung China controversy that's been, I was going to say boiling over, but no, that thing has exploded. And talking about it on the podcast, and it's definitely given me pause and definitely tempered my excitement for things. Was that Did that enter your brain at all as you were reviewing?
No.
Okay.
Tried
you were
to
just focus
on this game.
Sure.
Tried to
Sure,
focus
sure.
on the game, drown out the noise. What am I playing? How does it compare to past Call of Duties? How am I feeling about this right now? That's all I can do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So.
All right. Blood.
Mm-hmm.
Huber has been in Call of Duty land.
Mm-hmm.
You've been in outer space.
Yeah.
You've been
This is one of those 12
exploring
games I was talking about.
Yeah.
the outer worlds. And I've been exploring the outer worlds.
Yeah, it's great, like, because I've been going through it and I'm almost done with it, and then it's great to, like, get your check-in once in a while. And like, hey, where's this thing? And I'm like, let me look at my quest log, figure out when I got that.
Right, and it's been fun. Just like, oh, hey, I thought this quest was really great, and you're like, oh, I didn't go that direction with that quest.
Yeah.
And so just having the branching paths of player decisions and kind of hashing out with each other. Believe I'm level 11 in that game, so I still have a lot to go.
26 or 27 or something like that.
Yeah, but it's been nice because I've really been trying to just enjoy it and just like poke around and take it slow.
Yeah.
But yes, you're reviewing it. You've put a lot more time into it than I have. What are your thoughts on it?
The thing that's been interesting to me, and like my appreciation of the game has just like continually gone up the more time that I put into it, because I'm taking it slow, because I'm checking out everything.
Yeah.
And it's a game where I feel like everything kind of like supports each other. Like all of these different systems just like work together so well. And so it's like, you build your character and you've got like these, dialogue perks and things like that. And that's the main thing. Like I after seeing that demo at E3 and seeing that like, oh, maybe you can make these people that hate each other work together. I'm like, I want to do that. I want to see what that option looks like. And so that it's maxed out dialogue skills. I mean, not maxed out, but like there's different levels of ways that you can put points into things. But that was the highest things that I did when I created like the overarching elements, and really just playing that up and being the negotiator throughout the game. But then to see things that like different gear, like different clothing and helmets and stuff, also work towards those perks. And your companions are good at something. So if you have two companions that are good at lockpicking, then your lockpicking skill just gets like 40 more points. And it's great. Mm-hmm. And when you open it up, they like compliment you. It's like, hey, great job. You did that really quick. And the same thing, like I've got a jacket that's good for lockpicking. I got like a eye patch or something that's good for lockpicking.
What's the lockpicking like?
Oh, there's not a mini
game. Yeah, it's just like, do you have this thing that you need to pick up? This thing, hold the button and it will.
It's the points that you have into that skill plus however many points you have determines how many of the like little lockpicking doohickeys that you need to use. So if you have a much higher number of points than is required for that thing, you won't even use any of them.
Nice.
You use 0 of
Nice.
those picks. But yeah, you just hold a button.
Nice.
So people, Blood, have been comparing it to Fallout, myself included. And
it's undeniable.
It is undeniable.
It is so undeniable.
Yes.
But
yes.
I didn't realize this when he came in. But Leonard was behind the original Fallout. Huh?
Yeah, that was a big thing that they made in the initial announcement. Yeah.
Because when they did New Vegas, he
wasn't there yet.
Obsidian did New Vegas. Yeah. But so that's the thing. I think when you definitely play the game and you definitely have that sensation. I had it where I'm like, man, like this is so Fallout to like an eerie degree. But I think kind of what really sells you on it is the way in which it gets the details right.
Yeah.
And I said it. I think I said it before we like shot the podcast or something. I don't remember when I said it this week, but I was like, Outer Worlds is kind of making me realize that video game dialogue could be better, and it's just not. Like we just kind of like what we consider good is relative.
Yeah.
Because there have been then there have been moments when the dialogue in Outer Worlds has really hit me. And a good example of that is a quest early on where you have to decide where the power goes.
Mhm.
And pretty quickly, I was like, okay, these guys seem scummy. These guys seem like they're standing up for something good. And right before I was about to do it, my companion was like, but have you considered this? And
Right.
it threw my whole world upside down. And I was like, that makes perfect sense.
And if you talk a lot to the person that like seems like the good person, it seems like the,
Right.
the freedom fighter,
Yes.
then you're like, but wait, your motivations aren't quite what I thought they were.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
find out some things where you're like, that is kind of grody. Yeah.
But that's what I mean about every part supporting one another
Mhm.
is because there have been so many situations that I've been in where my perception of what's going on has changed because I went through some abandoned place and I found computer logs about this character and learned more about their backstory and maybe, even got, something that, would help open up another option with somebody else.
Right.
And just like all of these little things. And it's like one of the, the big quest lines that I finished. Then like, I could have so easily that could have not have even been a possibility if I hadn't learned this and learned this and learned this.
It's interesting kind of going into this and being like, I want to do every quest because, I want the experience.
Mhm.
I want to build up my character. I want to get those points. And then it just quickly becoming where you're like, wait, I haven't encountered a quest yet that has felt really like filler.
Right.
Where like there's been some sort of value in everything that I'm doing. Like this character is kind of just being played as a joke, but it's a good joke. Like it's actually entertaining.
Yeah.
And that has been fascinating. And I think when you break it down in kind of a black and white perspective, like what you're really doing is as basic as it gets. It's like, okay, go here, kill this dude. Go here, get this item. Like in the most literal sense, it's stuff that you've seen plenty of times before, but it is because the writing is so good that you don't feel it. You don't feel that
Right.
that wear, I guess.
Yeah. There's a couple of quests that I got into, or actually there's two parts of the same quest towards the end where I'm like, man, this is feeling like really fetch questy right now. This is like not something I was expecting from this game. But then they still manage to do something that I'm like, what? What did you just do? What did you just do? And like, it just take me by surprise before I got to the end of that quest.
I'm sorry, Bloodworth.
It was
I got completely
really loud.
Yeah, I was very distracted. I believe they're playing Black Sabbath below us.
Yeah.
And it sounds like we are actually in the demon realm right now. So, yeah, Blood, I'm sorry. I got way distracted there. Blood, I want to talk to you about the companions.
Yes.
Trying to move on from this eeriness that's happening.
Or at least we're decorated. For
Yes, we are decorated for it. I really like the companions so far, particularly Parvati, and I think a huge reason why I love Parvati is
It's getting
it's
louder.
so loud.
So we might have to like pause.
Yeah,
Honestly.
we'll try to power through, but if we take a break, you know why.
Yeah.
Anyway, Parvati. So she's this character that is just kind of this bundle of nerves, I would say, and it is just kind of awkward. And it's extremely relatable, but what you have these quests specifically for your companions. They want things, and they want you to interact with people.
Very Mass Effect in that way.
Sure.
And I would say that about the companions in general, and I think it's influenced by the fact that we have a ship for everybody to hang out on.
Yeah.
And so, like, I just get those vibes of like, hey, I'm gonna walk into Max's room and just ask him a bunch of questions about life and see what he's got to say about this and that. And then you after a while, some things start to repeat. But like when you come into the ship from wherever you've been, you'll get a message from the ship's computer like, there's one where it's like, reminder, there's only one toilet on this ship, And you walk upstairs, and there's somebody outside of the restroom yelling at the person like, "You need to go get checked out. There's something wrong."
Right.
So.
Do you go to different planets?
You do,
Yes.
yeah.
Sweet.
The Parvati thing, just jumping back to that really
sorry.
quickly, is, and it kind of speaks to what you were saying, where how believable these characters feel and how their interactions were like, oh yeah, like of course they would go through that. The companion quest that I'm talking about here, what was so remarkable, it wasn't this like big grand adventure. It was just like somebody trying to feel out how to handle a crush and like going out drinking for the first time. And it's like, okay, all I've pretty much done on this is just talk to people, but it's so good, and I just want this to end well that I'm on board, and that's great.
I love that stuff.
Yes. I think Blood, I'd like to get your opinion on this. I think my complaint about the companion so far is kind of there's like this domino effect where like you get one and then you very quickly get like 3 more. Like I feel like I got like 3 companions like back to back to back, and they were all like close around each other. I think particularly on Groundbreaker.
So it feels almost like they kind of come in pairs, right? Because you can get 2 pretty early on.
Mm-hmm.
Although actually you kind of have to wait on one of them because you have Parvati like right off the bat. And you can go all around that first world.
I guess you're right. I guess pairs is a better way.
First. But you can spend a lot of time with Parvati before you get access to the second person. Because even if you meet them very early on in the first area, you can't put them in your party until you leave.
Yeah.
And you go off world. But yeah, and so I think just kind of. But I did have that experience though with Groundbreaker where I got my 3rd companion, and then I like walked back to my ship, and I got my 4th companion. And it's kind of just depends on like the order that you end up doing things and who you end up talking to when. Because I could have gotten that 3rd companion much earlier, but I did other quests first.
Right. Yeah, and it's hard for me to like come down hard and be like, oh, this is the fault of the game, because it does come down to like how you do things. I think.
One of the things that like I've actually kind of enjoyed working out is like just the order of quests, and I don't know if there's any other places that have really worked out this well, but like when you get to Monarch, which I don't even know if you've gotten to Monarch yet.
I have not been to Monarch yet.
Okay, so when you get to Monarch, your objective.
Quantum Break, dude.
Like you basically you get somebody that's going to lead you through, because Monarch is known for this like hostile wildlife, and it's just like covered in things that are going to kill you. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like going on safari. So you've got this person that's going to guide you down the road to basically climb a mountain, and there's death traps all along the way. The whole place is hostile. But the thing is if you kind of gather up your side quests before you take off, it was really easy for me to like look at like how those side quests were located, and just kind of like, rather than just taking the path and going up like a big J, to like just go and side quests here, side quests there, town here, all this stuff, side quest, and it would just all kind of lead me to that main objective, to where I just felt like I was doing stuff on the way the whole time.
Yeah.
Rather than like going out, coming back, going out, coming back, going out, coming back.
Yeah, I would say that has definitely been my experience as well, where I'll be like, oh, I want to just do side quests, but the side quests kind of end up happening in a convenient way where it feels like you're accomplishing multiple things at once, and you're like also getting close to the main objective. I completely agree with that 100%. Huber, in the past, you've said that something that has been hard about Fallout for you to get into is just kind of the post-apocalypse,
depression,
the depression, the
depression,
the lack of color, and that's something that the Outer Worlds does not suffer from in the same way. I mean, there's definitely a lot of like kind of factory like.
There's a dystopian angle for sure.
Yeah.
But one thing that's interesting is
you get very bright colors on the planets.
When you start out when I first started the game, I was like, man, this is like really in your face with the way that you start to encounter the corporations and like soldiers that are bleeding out, dying, like having to like recite company slogans and things. And,
That conversation is so good.
yeah, but it's interesting because you get to like a certain understanding of how people relate to this corporation in the first town, and then you get to the next town and they've got a completely different relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to the next town and they've got a completely different relationship. And every town is very distinct, not just in how it looks and how it's laid out and how some of the architecture is, but in how people's attitudes are and what their role is in this colony.
Yes.
Can you sleep?
Yes.
Yes. Actually, on the hardest difficulty setting, you have to sleep and you have to eat and you have to drink. And if your limb gets maimed, you have to go to bed.
Dude,
and you can only go to
awesome.
bed on your ship. The supernova difficulty, that's definitely is like a second playthrough thing. There's no way I could do that
So
the first time.
cool. Can you decorate your room on your ship?
It auto-decorates based on what you do.
Yes.
And same thing with your companions.
Awesome.
There's certain things that you can pick up that you find along the way that will end up in their quarters.
Awesome.
Something I like about Outer Worlds is I feel
So
like
cool.
even where I'm at now, I'm like, man, this armor, this gear looks awesome. Like
Mhm.
it does the process of like slumming through kind of whatever looking weapons and armor. I feel like things get fantastical fairly quickly, which is nice. Like you get some cool sci-fi looking stuff pretty early on, which I like.
So one thing, I don't know if this is just like a role-playing thing or a me thing or what, but the companions, they have specific outfits when you first get them, but then of course, like you want to equip them with better gear going into combat. But Ben, I'm telling you right now, I keep civvies. I have a civilian set of clothes for everybody, so when we go into town, everyone's dressed right.
Pound
you
it.
know?
Yep.
Yeah, I see
and
where
then
you're
I
coming
have
from.
there's an option in
You're a good
the
man.
settings to turn off companion helmets.
Mm-hmm.
I keep mine on because you never see me anyways. But
What helps though is when they do have dialogue, their helmets are off by default, which is nice.
sometimes.
Yeah. So like if you're in a story moment and something is happening, they're not wearing, the thing. It's actually kind of funny having a helmet on them though, and like hearing their voice through the helmet, like the modified voice is pretty cool.
I love that you put your civilian clothes on. That's so awesome.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh,
You were going to tell
talking-
us about the combat.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
combat.
you're. Yeah. How is it?
I feel like the shooting. I haven't done a 1-to-1 comparison to say like Fallout 4, but or a back-to-back comparison. But I feel like the shooting is definitely a little bit tighter. It's not why you're playing the game.
There's no VATS or anything. It's real time.
There's slowdown.
Yeah.
So it's not VATS, but it's very similar. It serves a similar function where you're taking a pause to slow down time.
Are you incentivized to use that in every encounter?
Yeah. So when you're in the slowdown, you can basically you can get like specific like critical hits on an enemy. So like if you target the eyes, you'll blind them. Some weapons can like totally like knock somebody back or cripple an arm or cripple a leg.
And there's damage types as well. So
Yeah.
if you're fighting against mechanical enemies, you can use like electric weapons to do more
Can I
damage.
bludgeon a kneecap?
Yes.
Yeah. Take a big, huge
So
freaking
awesome.
hammer.
I love asking
like-
ridiculous D&D style questions for Outer Worlds.
Well, it's
and
great
I'm
when
just
the
like,
answer
yep.
is yes. Yeah.
It's awesome.
And like I haven't been using melee, but you can power up melee to where you can get like power swings and you can like get perfect blocks and stuff on it.
Is there an energy beam sword?
Yes.
Blood, talking about that, I want to focus on the skills because that has been something that's been really enticing for me where so many of the skills are tempting. And I feel like Outer Worlds has done a good job through different situations of making me wish like, oh man, I wish this skill seems really useful. I want that. Like, it feels like it's really using your skills that you're picking. And so they all seem important. And so when you get to that level up, you have that moment where you're like, what am I going to do? Like, all of this seems worth investing in.
But in classic immersive sim fashion, and as Bloodworth has stated earlier, speech seems
Speech is very
the
good.
best.
But you have to kill a lot of things.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But but again, working things back into each other.
Yeah.
Speech also affects combat.
What? With your companions?
No.
Buff them up?
So like, if your speech skills are high enough, when you shoot an enemy, they'll become terrified of you,
Oh.
and so they won't be as aggressive.
That seems like
BM.
we know what you're making.
Yeah.
You're going to terrify your
Yeah.
enemies.
Yeah.
Blood, I want to go really quickly back to
Yeah.
what you were saying about how like every place kind of has its own thing going on and how it's individually fascinating. To just very quickly add on to that, while that is definitely true in my experience, I also, something that's nice is it all feels connected. Like, yes, these people in this place are dealing with their own situation and that is their primary concern, but it's all tied into this thing that's affecting everyone.
Yeah.
And you have moments like that where it's like, I don't feel like necessarily like this is just, they're all these isolated things and I'm just like solving this, I'm solving this. Like, yes, they're separate, but they're all connected. And I think you never feel like you're that far away from like the larger problem, which I think can be really hard to do in a way where like, I don't know, I'm just kind of in awe of Obsidian's writing where like everything just is believable. Right? Like the greater conflict that you're doing, where these people are, their motivations for stuff. I find a lot of times when you're talking to people, you can definitely just get like critical information from somebody. And I was like, okay, well, I want to see what else this person has to say. And over and over and over again, all the stuff that they have to say is fascinating. Like, it's not just like dry, I'm just going to tell you about this place. It feels like even super minor characters feel very individual.
Sounds awesome.
Like, even if they're telling you about a broader thing, they're telling you about it from their perspective.
Can I be friends with everyone? Like, other than the main villains, obviously. Like, can I befriend?
It's not like you can take a person off the street and it's like, now you're on my ship.
No,
It's
but
not
like,
exactly.
I guess, is there like renegade Paragon outcomes for a lot of the quests?
There's reputation.
Okay.
There's reputation. Although I will say that's the one thing I think is kind of weak, and in a way that we're like, I'm not even sure how much I do. Like, I don't even know if it's like even worth mentioning in the review. Like it's like,
it's definitely been nice because
when you get enough reputation, then like shops like lower the price.
You'll get like hey, you get a 20% discount because these guys like.
But like, for instance, I don't want to go too spoiler territory, but so I made a choice in the first world that was anti one of the factions, right? And I had already pulled my reputation pretty much to max with them, and making that choice was pretty harsh against them. And I got, I don't know, like 15% negative, and it really didn't do anything.
That you were still on good terms with them, pretty much.
Terms
sure.
With a shopkeeper that's like having to hang out in the street now. And like,
got it. Okay.
Okay.
Because you're really selling me with obviously the writing and the characters and the worlds.
Yeah.
So I just want to know like how much impact, I guess, you have on just all of that.
Yeah.
Like if it's really like, if I could play this, because I think I remember an early trailer for the game just talking about like different ways, like, oh, I can be kind of a bastard to this person, or I can like help him out, or lie, or there's a lot of lying,
there's
right?
a lot of lying that you can do.
You can intimidate, persuade.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing, is it always feels like you're finding your own particular way to navigate through a conversation.
Very cool.
So like when you're presented with a situation, it's like, well, how do I solve this? You solve this based on how you built your character.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if you realize this because I didn't know this for sure until we did the showcase with them. But I had Ian, and I love it because he's in there throwing stuff at them that I wouldn't have thought of. And so we made a character that was melee focused and extremely low on intelligence.
Yes, I think I know where you're going.
And there are
Sounds like
dumb
Augur.
dialogue options. They literally say dumb in brackets that are only available if
Yes.
your intelligence is extremely low.
So I
So
have
you
not,
could go through the whole game with like super low intelligence and just have that RP?
RP, baby.
Dude.
So I haven't done the dumb conversation options thing. I haven't actually done that in the game, but I know that it's a part of it. Yeah.
I just want to recruit everyone, man. I just want to be Pomper in this world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is that some of the, we talked about getting people really quickly back to back, but I mean, you can miss some of those. Like if you're not doing all the side quests, you can very easily miss that somebody is not.
Yeah, and
That somebody is a companion. Like if you've been following marketing and stuff and like hearing us say names, then you'll catch on maybe. But like for me going in kind of blind, where like I only recognized one of those people,
right.
then like they're just okay, you're gonna hang out on my ship, cool.
Awesome.
I think when I was talking about maybe getting the companions too quickly, I think part of that is a self-inflicted wound where like if I see a potential companion, like I really want it.
As soon as you saw that one person, you're like, where do I get the thing?
Yes. I want it. Yeah, I really wanted the companion. So I think in that sense, it's a self-inflicted wound, but it also speaks to the quality of the companions. I'm excited to get them. I want them to be part of my crew. I want them interacting with each other.
And it doesn't happen a lot, but one of the best freaking things is when you're in a place that the character knows and you walk into rooms and they comment on them, or you're talking to somebody and they interrupt and they join in on the conversation and the person you're talking to talks back to what they said. And like all of a sudden, like it just changes the dynamics so well.
Hubert, you've talked before about like how like innovation isn't the end all be all when it comes to evaluating something. And I think like Outer Worlds is a perfect example of that, where I think when you break it down, it's not like, oh, other games haven't done this before. A lot of what we're talking about, you can say like, oh yeah, it's been done before. I think it's just the execution, how well they've done it is really what makes this so special in a lot of ways. What I don't like though, I don't know. Sometimes I just get sick of picking stuff up.
Oh, sure.
Where it's like
going in a room, scanning
yeah,
around.
yep. And yes,
a lot of boxes.
You can make the case that you don't have to do that, but Outer Worlds definitely kind of
Who's gonna solve that problem?
right.
Who's gonna solve it?
It's kind of a weird thing where like
That's a
it's funny
video
because
game
it's like you
thing.
want to do it, but you don't want to do it.
exactly
Right?
That's the space that it falls into. That's so frustrating.
Because it's like I don't need to pick up most of this stuff.
Right.
I don't
And
need oil when I have 49 oil bottles.
I've literally got something like 4,000 bullets.
metal component. 9,000 metal components.
right. Where
I know there's a lot of times you pick up weapons that you don't need because you can sell it. You can get to that vending machine and you can sell it.
Yep.
And you'll have cash for something that you do want.
Right. In the most technical sense, like the game makes it worth doing. It's not like you're doing it and you're like, I'm not getting anything out of this. I'm definitely getting resources and things out of it. But what we were talking about with the conversations where it's like, I love talking to people because they're also different and individual, where I kind of get the sense of like, all right, going in a room, killing guys, looting, like it starts to, I don't know. And you're right. It's like, how do you make that more interesting?
Yeah.
Right. I'm not sure exactly what
Last
the
of
answer
Us is close.
It's definitely,
You were picking up a lot less
but
stuff.
at the same time,
But like
It's a different kind of game.
what they did really well was you go into a room to search it and a character joins you and they have a conversation while you're doing it. That's a good
Sure.
way to disguise it.
but one thing I will say though is it's not nearly anywhere close to as bad as Fallout or Elder Scrolls or The Witcher, where you could just suck up everything,
Yeah.
the whole world. You can just take it.
Spoons and stuff in The
Yeah.
Witcher.
There is a
Hour
lot
15, you check your inventory, you have like 100 things. You're like, what do I even do with this? Yeah.
There is a lot of
just going
food.
to that's and I think that's part of the problem
Yeah.
is sometimes just the way that it's presented, like even just clicking on a vending machine for the first time in Outer Worlds and being like, all right, like just having your eyes like be like, okay, what is all this? And just you're just constantly sorting through things.
Yeah.
You know, and that is, you're right, like not exclusive to the Outer Worlds by any stretch, but not my favorite part, not a high point in this game.
My lowest point of all of that is definitely the food, because there's not a good way to organize it.
The food runs into the problem that I run into with food is I look at the food, which will offer you different benefits, like little buffs.
And they're really, in some ways, they're well implemented because so you heal with this inhaler, and once your medical skill gets high enough, you can put other things into the inhaler other than just your normal healing item. So any of these food items you can put in your inhaler and get that buff at the same time that you heal.
Got it.
And it will, when that runs out, it will replace it with another food item that does the same thing automatically. So you don't have to constantly go into your menu and do this stuff.
That's good.
If you're using a specific thing. But if you want to like stack on 3 or 4 buffs, then the challenge is where's the thing that gives me body attributes? Where is it? What is it? Because there's just so many different things rather than them just making like even color codes or something on the icons, on the tiles, so that you can quickly like, got it, that's what I need right there. So that's my tricky thing. It's those times when I do need a buff, when I do need to like extend my health or lower the cooldown of my allies' abilities or something like that. It's just like, all right, which one? Which thing is it? Is it the Sissy Pig sticks, or is it the fish, or is it the tobacco or whatever?
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like I kind of run into the situation with looting where it's like, do I need this? Like I have those decisions where it's like, do I want this to take up space in my inventory, and just that kind of constant decision.
I definitely don't pick up that much food. Like I just a lot of food. I just leave it right where it is.
I was like picking up a lot early on, and that has definitely trickled down to where it's like, okay, now you can leave that. But I got good news and bad news. The good news is that none of you said a forbidden word.
Yay.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. However, the bad news is that the music underneath us got us caught in a frame trap anyway. And we have a different kind of caught in a frame trap. Trying to mix it up, trying to continually mix it up. And what we're going to do this time is you're going to be placing bets. This isn't really a game.
Excellent.
In the sense that like you're not competing against each other.
I love bets.
You're not trying to get a number right. I am going to. So, we're on the door of the next generation. A lot of crazy things have come true this generation. I have a list of 5 series, and I want to know if they are going to make a big comeback next generation, or if the
this
thing
is Huber bait right here.
if the thing is likely. Okay. So I've got a list of 5 games. I'm going to give you 3 bets.
Okay.
3 mental tokens, if you will.
Okay.
So you can't place a bet on everything.
Okay.
And you don't even have to use all 3 if you want. But you have 3. You have a maximum of 3. You can put them down. Okay. And you can place a bet right away.
Okay.
Or you can wait until we get through the entire list and make a more careful decision. All right. Now I know that obviously just recently appearing in Smash is a big deal, but do you think Banjo-Kazooie will have a brand new game in the next generation?
Yes.
You're placing a bet.
Placing a bet.
Bet spent.
Immediate
1
bet.
down.
Immediate bet.
All right.
Yes.
All right. I like it.
Yes.
Blood, what do you think?
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to, because you were like, you can do it now or you can wait.
Yeah.
So.
You want to wait?
I think I'll wait. I'll see what else we got.
You want to talk about Huber bait? Dino Crisis.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
We're 2 games in. Huber spent 2 of his 3.
Yes.
Dino Crisis.
Yes.
You can't get them back.
There is no world in which I do not place a bet on Dino Crisis.
You know.
And Banjo is like a lock, so I have to put a bet on that. That's where I'm at currently with these bets. Like Banjo's 100%. It's coming back in some capacity, even if it's nuts and bolts too.
You know what, Huber? I think I'm going to let you switch him around if you want.
Okay.
I'm going to let you switch him around.
Something's coming.
Dino Crisis is so weird. I feel like Capcom is just done with it. I don't know why.
See, the thing is, didn't
because
Capcom recently come out and say they're going to resurrect dormant franchises?
maybe
Yes.
but I just feel like if they're gonna do it, why haven't they done it? They've got everything they need. They've got the Monster Hunter team. They got the Resident Evil team.
Dude, they're cooking.
Just get a couple of those guys to work together. You got
But
it.
don't you think if you have everything they need, that makes it likely?
But then why haven't they done it?
Because
they're
Resident
waiting
Evil
for
2 came out this year, man. It takes time.
Yeah, it takes time. It takes
It takes time.
I agree.
Years go by.
So for this one, I want to specify that I would consider like a remaster of this pretty significant. Maybe not as significant, of course, as a brand new game, but still significant. Demon's Souls.
This one, I'm going to take a page out of Bloodworth's book and say this, if it was going to happen, would have happened by now, I think, honestly. I think they're moving on.
I think that we're talking about next gen in particular. I think I'll put a bet on this.
Whoa.
I'll put a bet on this.
Demon Souls, dude?
And for the funniest reason, this to me feels like the masses just willing this thing into existence.
Yeah,
Where like people just keep saying it
for sure.
that it's like the Final Fantasy VII remake. You know, it's like what was it, PS2 when they first
PS3,
showed
PS3
when
And
they
it'd be
first showed a render.
so awesome. If
I mean,
it came back.
it took a long time.
That's what I mean, though.
Yeah.
It's like people won't shut up about this, so I guess we'll make it.
I'd want it to come out though after From makes like 4 more games, including Elden Ring, and like 2 of them are like not Souls-like at all. So going back and all of a sudden like returning to Demon Souls like remake or sequel or something. It's like the big return of Souls.
I could even see a scenario where it's like, you kind of like how you're talking about Modern Warfare, to where it's like, okay, it's the same game in a sense, and that like you're in the same world and there's some of the same bosses and stuff, but then it's just like sprawling out way beyond the original design.
Huber, I wonder if you're going to feel that way after Elden Ring. Like, I wonder if Elden Ring will kind of be this like perfect mixture of this feels new, but it also has enough old in it.
Dark Souls 3 really felt like the we joke, but it really felt like the culmination of that formula to me, you know. Had the nostalgia factor and just everything about it really felt like a capper, and then Sekiro obviously felt like a lot different to me.
Yeah, I think a Demon's Souls remaster would still hit me because I just think of the highs of that game and how, despite having so many Souls games and Souls-like games, like some of my favorite memories come from Demon's Souls. Like, it's really...
Would you just do the monk boss fight the same, or would you mess with people and like mix it up? What would you do?
Know.
What would you do, dude? Do you shake that up, or do you just do it exactly the same way again? It'd be cool if this time...
I mean, messing people would be fun. Sounds fun.
What if you played as the Asylum Demon or something this time around? Like, yo, welcome to the game.
Talking about
That's Dark
Souls.
Right?
The very beginning of...
the big fat guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget his name.
Yes, I forget his name
that
too.
freako.
All right. So we got 1 blood bet. We got 2 Huber bets. We got 2 more games left. Advance Wars. Will Advance Wars make it?
I'm not going to bet on this.
Why?
We just got Wargroove.
It also feels like, I don't know, people were excited about Wargroove coming out, but it didn't feel like it made
I got
that
it.
big of a splash.
I lost interest after a couple hours, honestly. I know maybe not, maybe the game's fault. I don't know. I'm very kind, but I was just like,
Just didn't click with you.
Yeah.
It's one that I would like to take another crack at for sure,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
slipped away from.
like, was it good? Do people like it? I don't know.
I feel like people like it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it was on me then.
But yeah,
I mean,
I feel like
hard strategy games are just a commitment, Like it takes a lot of energy and effort to get through them.
I feel like right now, like Fire Emblem has oddly become such a moneymaker that it's hard to see the War series coming back in that strong of a fashion. But I do remember it's weird. I'm curious, like what ended up happening that like made it sort of fade away, because it was just this consistent thing that was made in Japan all of those years. And then they brought it out as essentially a niche product on the GBA. And then I remember like, oh, it's so sold out that like everything is like backed up for like a month. You won't be able to get the game because they didn't make enough of them.
There's one on DS, or a couple probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's 2 on
Are
DS.
there any on 3DS? I think I
No.
played I played
Yeah.
the DS one.
Did you play
hell and
Dual
back.
Strike or Days of Ruin?
What's the first one?
Dual Strike.
I
Yeah.
played that one for sure. So much. Oh, God, that game was fun.
Dual Strike was fun.
So fun.
Yeah. I feel like it's hard because I think there's definitely a very passionate contingency of people that would be very excited about a new Advance Wars. Yeah. But at the same time, even just the response to, I feel like Fire Emblem just keeps kind of getting these explosive responses, and what people talk about with specifically, and how just feverishly they've fallen in love with the Three Houses cast. I wonder how you kind of replicate that devotion without compromising
Right.
Advance Wars. if
Throw a
you know what I
little
mean.
Valkyria Chronicles in there somehow.
Just with like
Relationships and stuff.
relationships and characters. Yeah.
Because if you put it on Switch, you could be, bigger in scope.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't have that much. I mean, I think that's the difference, right? Is that like Advanced Wars really wasn't that much in the role playing side of things. It was more
Battles.
direct strategy.
Right. And so that's the thing, is if you include that stuff,
Yeah.
do you upset the people that really love it?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
It's been a long
I
time
mean,
since I played that game.
I think this conversation would make me like really curious to see how they tackle it, and
Yeah.
what they come up with, and which
Absolutely.
direction they go. Last game. So no one placed a bet on Advance Wars.
Oh, sorry. Advance Wars.
Half-Life.
Ah.
I think this is definitely the
Yeah, no.
biggest reach.
I'll throw a bet on there.
You throw a bet on Half-Life?
Like, dude,
You just want to will it into existence?
yeah, Half-Life's coming, man. Like, I'll be 90 years old and it'll come, one day.
Yeah, that's the
One
thing.
day it's coming.
But the bet is for this next gen though, right?
Got it.
Yeah,
Didn't
so
think
within
about
the next
that.
generation. But
Ooh.
generations last a long time.
They do.
Generations last a long time.
And this was kind of like the birth year of consumer VR. I always felt like Half-Life 3 would go kind of that
right.
route.
It feels like nothing is ever dead.
No, dude.
Right.
Half-Life will return.
This next generation.
Right.
We're just having fun here.
I have a lot
We're just
less
having fun.
confidence than I did a few years ago. It coming back that soon, I mean. But sure, we'll say it. We'll say next gen. Half-Life. Yeah.
I'll put a bet on Banjo, but yeah, I don't think I can bet on Half-Life.
Does Black Mesa count? No, just kidding.
No. And that's not a knock against Black Mesa.
Yeah.
It's just no.
Yeah.
It's gotta be Half-Life something.
It has to come out, right?
It doesn't have to.
That's
It doesn't
the
have.
problem.
Of course, it doesn't have to. But like,
It should.
It's going.
It should have come out a long time ago.
Like,
But
you'd think.
What I will say is that it's hard to predict how companies are going to go. Like the Valve of today is not the Valve of last generation to me, right?
Correct.
They feel completely
different
and
company.
sometimes it feels like just the way people are evaluating their business and what's important and what the direction is going to go just completely gets turned on its head.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Blizzard, not the same company.
I feel like I remember the talk around Fortnite before it came out where it was like, yeah, it's kind of like Minecraft. And it's like, well, think about the path that Fortnite has taken, right? And how and those kind of like topsy-turvy, here we are now moments feel like they could happen whenever.
Mm-hmm.
And so who knows?
Because like think about how many 10 out of freaking 10s have come out since Half-Life 2, Episode 2. Think about how many great games have come out since then. Like think about the pressure back on Valve then to make a game of that quality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's tough task.
I wonder if it would. Valve finds the right people to make it.
They like outsource it. They should give it to someone. No,
I mean, maybe the right pitch comes in at the right time.
someone comes in.
Someone
Yo,
comes
let
in,
me do this.
The
please.
right hands get shaken.
Yeah.
Or you mean like,
Money-
like the Baldur's Gate pitch?
Money
Sure.
across the table.
Yeah, maybe it's something like that, right? You see it. You're like, oh, they can do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously, this is the loosest of loose talk.
Of course.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in such a different place with it. It felt like not even an open wound because I've always liked Half-Life, but I've never been like, what happens next? I've always wanted to continue it. But like now,
it's just been so much time.
Yeah, now it's been so much time. It's not even a slight. It's not even an attack. It's just there's so much goodness out there in movies and games and television. Like, I don't care. Like, obviously, when it gets announced,
Right, then
screaming 10 out of 10
it's
hype.
like, it's like you close the box and the box gets ripped open.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like a Jack in the Box popping up. Half-Life 3. But until then, like whatever.
You brought up Baldur's Gate 3, and that's such a good thing to bring up because and Shenmue 3 is a really good thing to bring up because Kickstarter, right? Like you just have this
System
whole new platform of things now that can get created, a whole new avenues. We don't know, like that's the things that is the hardest to predict, I think, is how is the avenue for making games and getting those games funded and how they make money, how is that going to change? Because that's really where I think it comes from a top-down level.
Can I add a sixth entry on there?
Sure. You're out of bets unless you want to move one.
Turok.
Okay.
To Ben Moore, you have one token.
Oh,
I'm
put it on
adding
Turok?
I'm adding Turok to the list. You have one bet though. Where does it go?
You're adding Turok. That
You don't
almost
have to-
feels like you're baiting me to put it
I'm
on
not betting.
Turok.
No bait. No bait. I just want to add Turok into the equation and pose
Are
it to
you
you.
moving a chip to Turok?
I have Banjo, Dino, and Half-Life. Yeah, I'm
Half-Life.
moving it from Half-Life to Turok. There we go.
All right.
But that's
which-
Disney got it now, right?
Disney owns Turok?
They made that last gen one, right?
Dude, Turok Disney Plus show? Yeah. Let's
But actually,
go.
I don't know who is responsible for the ports that came out to the Switch.
I forget. And the PC ports, I forget.
Where would I feel like this is a head and heart kind of thing. Something
Follow
tells
your
me
heart.
out of this, Banjo's the most likely.
Yeah.
Follow your heart, though.
Especially with it's almost hard to believe that they would put Banjo in Smash without it promoting something. You know, like we're gonna get a lot of people excited about Banjo and then cash in.
Cash in, dude. Cashing in on Smash hype.
We're gonna put him on Mixer.
Oh man, what was Conquer in that was just terrible?
It was that game, Project Spark.
Yes.
Project Spark.
Like we got Conquer back in Project Spark. I'm like,
Okay, I have my bet, and here's where I'm coming from with this bet.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to pick Dino Crisis.
Yes.
Not because I'm the biggest Dino Crisis fan, but because thinking about Resident Evil 2 and the kind of horror game that they made, the way that I feel about Resident Evil 2 is like this is how I want that style of horror game. Like this is it's the perfect evolution.
All you have to do, like when I sleep at night, I imagine instead of Mr. X, it's a Velociraptor.
Right.
You just put a Velociraptor in the RPD in Resident Evil 2, and it's perfect.
I feel like
Let's go.
This Resident Evil 2 remake has blown the doors open.
Yeah.
And I have so much confidence. And this is coming on top of Resident Evil 7, which is amazing. Yeah. But I think specifically in the same vein, it wouldn't have to be exactly the same, of course, but in the same vein of the Resident Evil 2 remake, I think they could crush Dino Crisis. Yeah. Like, yes.
Crush it.
Yes. Like, just the Mr. X model, but applied to dinosaurs. Yeah. And you could get a variety of things chasing after you.
T-Rex thrown in there.
Yes.
Dude.
Yes. So I think I just kind of want to see this idea that I have in my head where, like, some of these, I don't think I have a very clear idea. Dino Crisis, I have a clear idea. That's where I'm putting my bet.
Perfect.
So, Blood... You're still missing one. Turok is an option.
Turok's an option, Blood. Turok is on the board.
Sure, I'll do it, Turok.
All right! That was for the people.
Yeah, it was.
That was for the
It
people
was.
vote.
Good on you, Blood.
All right. So since this wasn't a competition, you're both going to have to break us out of the frame trap realm. Together, you're going to have to collaborate. You can talk amongst yourselves. Just to reiterate for the audience, Huber bet on Banjo, Dino Crisis, and Turok. Blood bet on Demon Souls, Banjo, and Turok. I bet on Dino Crisis. You guys will have to break us out of the frame trap realm. Before we do that, we have some wonderful sponsors that we're going to highlight. Excellent. Our first sponsor is Greg, TheDarkKnight Kettering. Thank you, Greg. After that, we've got Zoteg. Do you play Final Fantasy XIV? Are you on the Crystal Data Center? Search at Zotig, that's XOTIG, on Twitter for a link to an EZA Crystal Discord server. Thank you so much, Zotig. Next, we have Accounts Payable, who is going to give us a free shout-out to anything. What would we like to shout out?
I'm going to give it to Bloodworth.
Oh, I'm going to be doing a shout-out.
Yeah, shout us out. Something. No, give us a shout-out is what I meant to say.
Shout-out to Ben Hansen.
Yeah.
Starting that company.
That's a good shout
Boom.
out.
Yeah.
What is the name
shout
of that company?
out.
Min-Max with two N's.
Look that up on Patreon.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sick.
Our next sponsor is Gift of Heaven. Gift of Heaven is a rad and righteous RPG created by O.M. Hawkstelter for your 3DS. In this apocalyptic fable, World Emperor Mak Elvis finds himself powerless to conquer the evil inherent in the Empire itself. In his unrelenting quest for utopia, he conspires with the last archaic vampire to combine Earth with heaven in an unholy alchemy intended to end the world as we know it. At the same time, the dread wizard Killboz seeks to destroy all life by summoning the Black Hole Sun. One way or another, the end is coming. And so is Gift of Heaven when you download the prologue for free by searching the 3DS eShop for the RPG Maker player and searching on the RPG Maker player for the nickname OM Hawk. Check out the Gift of Heaven YouTube channel to watch the prologue, launch trailer, a weird promotional short film, and a spooky Act 1 trailer. Let OM know what you think in his thread on the Easy Allies forums. Thank you, Gift of Heaven. Our last regular sponsor is Daventry Vaporworks. Thanks for the support. But now it's time, Blood. It's not time for bets. It's time for our mega sponsor, ViewSonic. Ever wonder what a gaming monitor from Tron might look like? How about the most Star Trek monitor ever? The new XG27 series from ViewSonic Elite has finally dropped and looks fantastic. Featuring innovative nano IPS technology, a 1 millisecond response time, and 165 Hz refresh rate, your monitor of the future has finally arrived. Visit viewsonic.com/elite to learn more. And for giveaways and updates, follow at ViewSonic Gaming on Instagram and Twitter. Blood, since we're waiting for Hubert to break us out of this frame trap, we're caught. We're getting extra time in the frame trap realm. Outside of this list, are there any games that if you had the power right now, you would will into existence?
Oh.
It's a tough question.
Good grief.
Yeah. You don't have to, it's just for fun. We're just buying time.
Yeah. I would like to see like that Chrono Trigger remake.
Hmm.
You know.
So not a new Chrono game, but a remake of Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Even Chrono Cross, like if you try to connect the dots, like the continuity there, it's bizarre.
What kind of? How would you want it to look? Would you want it to be fully 3D?
I would want it to be a 3D world to explore, but I would want it to be similar to like Ni no Kuni kind of thing, to where like it's attempting to be as faithful to the original artwork. And like a lot of that art, like even though it had like its own style and proportions and stuff, like it was still like super detailed. Like if you looked around, like all the clutter of like Luca's house or the detail on Robo and such, there's a lot of little bits there to appreciate. And even in the sprite work of the original game, like there's just so much packed into those rooms and those houses.
Yeah, I think Dragon Quest XI like makes me immediately think, yeah, they could definitely remake Chrono Trigger and have it be very faithful to that style. And just that music, in a way, it would be hard redoing music. I think that is just so beloved and iconic. But
they've done a fair number of concerts and recordings and things like that. So, I mean, they might even be able to use some of that stuff that they've already recorded, and would just have to get some more recordings of the other tracks that haven't been made yet.
Why isn't Chrono Trigger on Switch?
Just a matter of time.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time.
I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah. I have to wonder if it's already in the works and they're just spacing out those announcements.
Yeah.
To find the proper moment. Huber.
Yes.
You're back.
Yes.
Back from your research break. Are you ready to break out of the frame trap with Bloodworth?
I'm ready. Bloodworth, we're going to range filth this because I was thinking of the tech bow from Turok. I'm going to load it up for you.
Okay.
You're the bow. You're the bow and arrow. You're the bow. I'm the arrow.
What?
I'm holding the arrow. You shoot it.
Okay.
You're the bow. Get it?
Not quite, no.
We botched it. Fail. I was trying to like hold.
We're gonna have like the demons are gonna make us place more bets.
I was trying to like hold the arrow,
Uh-huh.
So like you're shooting it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm holding the arrow.
You just gotta take it and you gotta shoot it.
Yeah, you shoot this arrow,
Take it and
Bloodworth.
shoot it.
Okay.
Shoot this arrow.
But I just take
shoot it.
And then okay.
The demons are pissed.
They're not happy.
They're not happy. They're not happy about it.
That's all unfortunately I can say. They're not happy.
Fortunately for us, it was a tech bow, not just a normal bow. It's the tech bow.
It had some tech juice in
It
it.
had the explosive arrows.
The demons are not happy. This is the most awkward breaking out of a frame trap that I think I've had. But we're gonna move on. I want to talk about a game that I am really excited to talk about. So I finally finished. Abby and I have just been. It's a game that we were enjoying together. We were playing the original Yooka-Laylee.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
And that game is not perfect, but it had enough in it that kept us there. It had enough charm. It had enough discovery. I love that feeling in games where it's just like you run into something, you're like, oh, wait, what is this? And then it unravels into some big thing. And I had that. We had a good time. I had a good time with Yooka-Laylee. But we've been playing Yooka-Laylee in the Impossible Lair as a follow-up.
Good game.
I think this game is pretty fierce.
Yeah.
I like it so much that I worry. I'm like, do I like it too much? But I can't deny it.
Dude, I was kind of getting that feeling on the stream when we had it. I was like, what the hell, man?
Yeah,
this
and
game
it
is
just-
awesome.
I'm not all the way through it yet. I believe we have I think there's 48 bees that you collect. And so to give the audience the general impression of this game, if you haven't already seen it, think Donkey Kong. It is very Donkey. If you are familiar with 2D Donkey Kong platforming, you'll have a good base concept of how this game plays, what its levels are like. But kind of one of the twists of this game is that there is this impossible layer. There's this dungeon at the end and you could access it at any time. But it's really, really, really hard. And if you die at any point, you have to do the whole thing again. There are no checkpoints.
Jeez.
So you get these bees that kind of serve as extra hits that you can take out in the world. And so that is your incentive for going and doing levels.
So does that mean with 48 bees you can get hit 48 times?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can still fail it.
49 or 50, I think.
You could get hit an extra time and fail.
That's a lot of lives.
But I think that's kind of a cool idea. Like, it's kind of neat just having in the background, like, maybe I could do it now.
Oh, I got 15, 20. Like, let's give it a shot. Yeah.
But what I will say is, like, the levels are so good that you're kind of like, I just want to play the game.
Totally.
Like,
Save it for the end.
Right. Save it for the end.
Yeah.
Exactly. But there are a few things that this game has going for it that I really like. The first is that you can modify levels. So in the original Yooka-Laylee, you could embiggen levels, and basically what that would be is you would collect pages, like jiggies from Banjo-Kazooie, and what you could do is you could spend some of your pages to make the level bigger, and so it would add new parts to the level. It would have new areas where you could go to new parts to get more pages, which is really cool. Impossible Lair kind of carries that same spirit where you'll run into a bunch of levels and you'll play through it one way, and then you'll find a way to modify the level. So it's like, oh, this level has a lot of water in it. I've frozen the water.
Nice.
And
classic.
Yeah, classic. And I think that kind of gave me apprehension at first, where I was like, man, like, is there going to be enough change that this level is going to be exciting to go through? The answer is yes. Obviously, I can't speak to every level in the game so far, but generally, like, I have not... Every level has been really fun and has felt different enough. And I think what really helps
Are we on like Tropical Freeze vibes?
You said, are we online? And that made me worried about the recording.
Oh, no. Because you stopped, so then I stopped.
I was like, wait, what? Is the recording okay?
Yeah.
No.
I know. I was saying you are hyped on Impossible Lair.
Right. I hold Tropical Freeze in pretty high regard.
Yeah.
Not ready to say that Impossible Lair is better.
Yeah.
But I really like Impossible Lair.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes down to level design, where it has that sweet spot. And that's something about Tropical Freeze that I really liked is Tropical Freeze was a pretty challenging game. Like, it definitely made you earn it. Mm-hmm. And Impossible Lair definitely makes you earn it in a way that feels challenging and fun. And what I mean by that is it has like some of the best platforming moments where it's like, oh man, I got to get through a gauntlet. Like, I have to do things really quick. Like, I'll have to get from here to here to here to here really quickly. And if I make a mistake, it'll all go south. But I feel like the game is communicating enough to me that I can do it. I can be on the ball. And so when I succeed, I feel like really good. Like, I actually had the dexterity to get through this. But if I don't succeed, I'm not like mad at the game. It hasn't really felt frustrating or unfair, but it's pushed back in a way that's really fun. And I think part of what makes it fun is how the collectibles are hidden. So your big collectibles are these twit coins, and there will be this snake who's really great, who will block he calls them paywalls, and they make...
Oh,
Yeah. And so you need these coins to open these gates to unlock other parts of the world so you can get to more levels. So you can get more bees. And the way these coins are hidden it's a really good variety of like, oh man, this was cleverly hidden, and it's training me to not take anything at face value or to not zone out. Like, oh, if I think there's something up there, there's probably something up there. And it's going to be just tricky enough that when I get up there, I'll feel that sense of reward for exploring and for having kind of my sensor tuned to looking for those secrets, which is really cool. But then there are times where it's like, oh, I know what I need to do. Like, I need to jump off this enemy in order to reach this coin. It's like right there, but I can't mess that up. Like, I have to get it. Like, it's putting it right there, right in front of me. But what it's asking me to do is challenging enough.
Yeah.
Which is really, really
Love
cool. Like,
that
I gotta
Love
get that jump right.
Yeah.
Which is neat. But the other currency that is a lot more common are quills. And early on, I was kind of like, oh, there's kind of vomiting quills all over the place. Like, they're really easy to get, not going to fret them too much. But then you run into instances where it's like, oh, I've got to open up this chest, I need 1,000 quills.
Yeah.
So these are really valuable. And so things are expensive enough in the world, and I want to get this key or whatever it is to get to this next part of the world, that getting quills is exciting. Not quite as exciting as getting the Twit coins, but exciting enough that like you love it. You love the sound that it makes when you're getting the quills. It's like you're like that number is racking up. I can get to more parts of the world. It's a really good dopamine effect.
It's awesome.
It feels very finely tuned, and I think that's kind of extra surprising because there are certainly parts of the original Yooka-Laylee that don't feel finely tuned, where you're like, this world could be built better. This isn't always the most fun to get through. And the levels in Yooka-Laylee, it's like, whoa, they really upped their game. Like they're getting better. Obviously a different style of game, but still I think the sentiment holds true. The other thing that's really interesting and kind of ties into the quill collectible thing that I'm talking about is there are tonics. So these are hidden in the overworld, and in between the levels themselves, you are solving platforming challenges, trying to put things in the right place. There are secrets to find, all that good stuff. So the overworld is just as much fun as the levels you're going through, which is great and definitely deserves mention. But you'll find these tonics, and sometimes they're just silly little things, but other times they'll make the game a little bit easier. But if you're making the game a little bit easier, you're getting less quills, so it will subtract from your total. So it's an interesting decision because it's like kind of a hard game, and so you go in, and when it says like, hey, do you want to play the level, you have to make that decision. I like that. I like doing that because you can also make the game harder and get more quills.
Yeah, I like to do like 1.2 or something usually when that's in games, when that's an option. I'm like, just a little bit, give me a little extra.
Right, but it's a neat little system that, again, kind of like what we were talking about with Outer Worlds, having that sensation when you're playing a game where it's like, oh, I'm not just ignoring this. Like, I'm actually taking it into consideration. This feels like it's serving a purpose. And so, I have been busy with other games, particularly a game I'm reviewing that I can't talk about. But Yooka-Laylee has been kind of this, like, sunshine moment where it's just like, man, whenever I can play this, I'm having a great time.
Love that feeling.
And so, like, I am surprised at how much I'm enjoying it. Like, I knew that I was probably going to like it. I liked Yooka-Laylee, but it's just like, whoa, this is... I've seen people complain about the Impossible Lair, that it's just like, oh, it's not that interesting of a challenge. It's just kind of a chore. So I'm interested to see how I feel once I get through that. But right now, feeling really good. Yeah,
let me know how it is if you like it. Are there still complaints, I guess I'm asking, when people go through and get like 40 of the bees or something? You know, is it still a chore?
Right.
Because the way I would play would be to do all the levels, just to play the whole game, then do the lair. Would have, you know, I would assume I would have like 40 bees at that time or something.
Based on what I've seen online, it seems like maybe even if you do get all 48 bees, like it's still so ridiculously hard.
Okay.
I think that's where people are coming from.
I think it's one of those things where it's like you learn by failure a little bit. So it's like you still are going to have to go through sections a couple of times to understand like what is the trick and the trap and
So it could equate to a JRPG final boss, basically.
What do you mean by that?
Just where the difficulty spike.
The spike.
All of a sudden, it's just like, yo, absolutely. I'm the boss, the final boss of a JRPG.
I will flatten you. Yeah. It's like that, but in a platform game. Sure. Cool. But yeah, I really like it. And I think the other thing that I want to talk about is just how well I find it to control. I am feeling it feels so tight, like it, and that's something about Donkey Kong that I really like. Is it just feels right, and in a game that I think is challenging, and it's like, oh, I gotta roll, jump, bounce all over the place. Like you can't let the controls let you down, and it hasn't. Like I love the way that this thing feels. The other thing that's really good, man, I just keep thinking of things it just like keeps bubbling up in my mind. Like, oh yeah, that's really cool. Is the way that, like, so you're playing as Yooka and Laylee, and there are things that you can only do if you have Laylee with you. Yeah. So it's when you get hit and you lose Laylee, it sucks because you're like, oh man, I've really come to rely on a lot of things that Laylee has given me, but you're also not helpless. And so you're also like, sometimes I'm like, I should just die and move on. But then there are other times where it's like, no, I want to give it a shot. And so there's this just smartness to the design where they kind of thread this needle of you feel it, you feel the pain, but it's not so terrible that you feel completely worthless. And so that is another point that I'd like to bring up.
Nice. So it
and
seems like the difficulty is really well balanced for the main game, pretty much all the way through.
so far, for
Challenging,
me,
but
yes.
pretty nice.
Yes.
And then just the JRPG.
And there are other things in there that help it as well. There are these bells where if you don't have Laylee with you, like if you ring that bell, you'll get it back. And so, yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's just, everything just feels right.
Nice.
I think so. I really like it.
How's the story?
Whatever.
Like, I mean, coming from Yooka-Laylee 1 to this one, is there like a nice... Do you feel the connection? Is there anything to latch onto here?
No.
Nothing?
I mean, like I didn't
But
really
I mean, are you latched onto Yooka and Laylee as like mascots?
latch on is just such an interesting way to phrase it. Like, when I talk about the characters in Outer Worlds, I am latched on.
Of course.
A driving reason why I'm playing is because I want to see what they're doing. I do not feel that with Yooka-Laylee. It's like they're charming.
Okay.
They're quippy.
Cool.
And they're quippy in a good way, or sometimes I think they're funny.
So they're fun to be around.
Yeah.
Cool.
They kind of feel like a classic Sonic the Hedgehog vibe, where it's
Excellent.
you like them.
Perfect.
They're likable.
That's what I mean.
Yes,
Awesome.
they're likable.
Cool.
And there are other minor characters within that world that are likable as well.
Nice.
So
Nice.
Vendy still kind of freaks me out.
What's the villain?
Capital B.
Capital B.
Capital B is the villain.
Capital B.
We are pretty deep into this podcast
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
This one has really gotten away from me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Halloween, dude.
Hubert, talk to me about Destiny 2 Shadowkeep.
Shadowkeep. Whew. It's been a minute actually since I played because I've been playing Call of Duty and stuff. So I gotta get back in that Destiny mood. I'm actually
And it's also the first big thing that Bungie's done on their own.
yeah.
So that was actually part of the challenge for us. Is like, hey, Destiny 2 expansion, we need to get it. And like, yeah, I need to figure out who the heck to talk to.
Nice.
Took me a little digging, a little asking some friends, and like, hey.
Making connections.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is when I found the contact, somebody we worked with before when they
Nice.
were somewhere else. But yeah.
Very jolly. Shadowkeep though, I'm kind of in a holding pattern until the 29th Festival of the Lost. Yeah, on a side note, these in-game video game events, kind of a little rant here.
Yeah.
I would like it if they started give us like a week or two before Halloween, leading up through Halloween.
Oh, yeah, we've been ranting about this.
Like Fortnite and stuff, same thing, where it's like, all right, it starts on the 29th and then it goes to like November 15th.
Yeah, who cares?
But like November 4th, I'm like looking around, like, all right. Side note, sorry.
Yeah.
Just a rant on mine.
And again, like we're doing our Halloween stream on, a couple days early so that people can actually enjoy Halloween.
Yeah.
But Luigi's Mansion's not out yet.
Luigi's
We
Mansion.
can't stream that game. Like how?
It's
how?
designed for a full playthrough though on like Halloween Eve, Halloween night. Creator's intent. Luigi's Mansion 3. We're getting off track now.
I feel like doing a one-sitting playthrough of Luigi's Mansion 3 for your first time, that's
two.
pretty intense.
Like 2. I mean, the first 2 are what? Like 8 hours, right? They're pretty
The
short.
first one especially is not.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
that
first
really
one's cheap,
short.
or short, but the
second one can be pretty long.
The second one is I think a little bit more long for sure.
Yeah, I want to say this. I want to say the second one is like 20, but that might be overestimating.
That might be a little over.
That might be overestimating it. I don't remember how long the second one is.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
All right, so
It's been a while.
So maybe a weekend's out of the question. But anyway, Shadowkeep. Really interesting expansion for Destiny. Kind of putting everything like in the right place, I feel like, going through this. Kind of just like trimming the fat, going on to a new era, so to speak. Obviously, like you were saying, it's just Bungie now. But I really liked it. It felt really lean. Like, the story is really quick. So you can get through like the campaign missions in, honestly, like a day or two. You just breeze through the campaign. Then obviously...
It's always that way, right?
Yeah, it's always that way. So it's not like... It's nothing, and I say this in the review, it's nothing transformative. It's something like, oh my gosh, Destiny rebooted or anything. It's more of Destiny, but all just really good content. At least I think so. I really like it all.
I've seen people reviews say that it is a Destiny expansion for Destiny faithful. Do you agree with that sentiment?
I mean, so I'm like somewhere in the middle with Destiny in terms of like committed player to super not committed at all, doesn't play.
Sure.
So I like check in for expansions, play for a couple months, move on.
We got to come up with a word for that.
Yeah.
What's in between like
normal
check-ins?
person.
You're normal
normal person? Sure, perfect. Okay.
Because I get that sense too, where I'm like, I've played through Borderlands 3 and I enjoyed it and I'm done.
Yeah.
But that's where a lot of people start.
But I really
Like,
I'm
crazy.
glad we're talking about this. That is what I love about Destiny, is that it is such a phenomenal game for people that do not engage with it that much to people who are obsessed and play hundreds of hours in just that game. This is a game where both of those people can easily play together and have a phenomenal time. And that's what I love about Destiny. I just love that.
So, do you think that if that's something that's always been true about Destiny, that's part of its appeal, is Destiny 2 Shadowkeep just kind of carrying that momentum forward?
Yeah,
or is
I mean,
it really adding something new.
Well, because like it's kind of hard to talk about Shadowkeep, just Shadowkeep, because it's also New Light, which also dropped at the same time. So Destiny is free to play now, to an extent.
I think with those things dropping,
it's all
same
encompassing.
time.
Yeah,
it's all encompassing. Exactly.
So it's just awesome because Destiny 2 now feels like it has just it's like a new beginning, so to speak. Refining what is there and also beginning anew. I was playing with people. It went to Steam now, so I was just playing with a bunch of people, like for the review and stuff. People just hopping in and out, like, oh, I never played Destiny, but now it's free. So there's just like life again in the game, and it's just every time I play it, because I play with people from the community and stuff, and like Allies fans and patrons, like just how deep you can get with that game is so awesome and fascinating. Like for those people too, to like take new players under their wing, like it's just a really exciting time in Destiny.
So I got a little bit of the Destiny 2 bug, and something that I like about New Light is it's just like, hey, you're coming in, you can just play whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like you can do the content that you want to do.
Yes.
And that's a big focus for them. And I think that is really, really smart because that takes away a lot of the intimidation.
Yeah.
Because when you have that feeling of like, I want to be here, but I have to get through all of this. Yeah. It's just it
daunting.
It almost feels like, and it's not this, but I think in some way it feels like a punishment. And that's always a weird thing to wrestle with when you just want to go and have a good time with your friends, right? And so them removing barriers in any way, I think is really good.
Well, I feel like it's something you guys end up talking about whenever 14 comes up, right? It's like, oh, I want to do this thing with Damiani, but I can't unless I put 30 hours in before.
Right. Well, 30 would be great.
Yeah, honestly.
30.
Adding on to that though, if you're a new player coming into Destiny 2, good luck. Because the lack of tutorial and the lack of communication and direction is severely lacking. They need to do something.
Yeah.
They need to add some kind of tutorial it's in some form. Because
don't they have a new?
They have. I think there's like
player location with New Light. I could be wrong on that.
I think you just go straight to the tower, but like
again,
to get like the main quest line and stuff, you have to go talk to someone. It's just it's a lot to really take in. Like It's not just easily like, yo, pointing you here, go there, do this, here's how you play. It's like you really have to like dig in.
Yeah, you know how you said you were a normal person when it came to Destiny? I am definitely on the casual end for Destiny, where I played Destiny 1, played Destiny 2, and played Taken King.
Yeah.
Played Destiny 2.
Yes. Did the raid.
That was awesome. And so, like, just this on and again, off again, with huge gaps in between with Destiny. But I enjoy it. But the thing that was really frustrating for me, and it's not the first time I've felt this with Destiny, where it's just like, what the hell is going on with the story?
Yeah.
And the thing is like, when I was there with Destiny 1 on the ground floor, I felt that way. But now it's just like, Destiny feels confusing sometimes, but also what has been happening. And so I think just, I don't know, maybe catching people up with the story would be nice. Obviously, you have YouTube videos for that, but I don't know, some sort of
It's really
process.
hard.
It's dense. It's
follow.
what you were saying, and I think that's part of the reason why people like it is because you can go down these rabbit holes with all of these different races and the history of the different worlds and.
That's one thing that's only for the faithful, I think, is the story. Because I'm someone who always takes, no matter what, even Yooka-Laylee, I'm always taking the story seriously. Yeah. I'm always like, I really try hard to connect the dots and get the lore and the dates and the names. Like, I want to know all that stuff. And you're either all out or all in on the story. I don't think there is a middle ground. Because I try to be the middle ground with the story, and I have no idea what the hell is even going on. I know a couple people, a couple things, like bare bones. I still have no idea.
It's funny because playing just a little bit of Destiny that I did, dipping in, checking out New Light and stuff, I was like, oh, I'm going to watch a video. And then I was talking to you and Brad about it, and I was like, there were some things that confused me more than before I watched that video. Yeah.
I feel like maybe I'm at a place where if I watched a lore video, I could comprehend it.
That's a good place to be.
Yeah. So I could watch like a full-on thing and then I'd be like, okay, I get it. But still, like, really hard to follow. But Shadowkeep's cool. It's kind of recycled content, but new for Destiny 2. You're going to the moon, which was the Destiny 1 environment, which is cool, but at the same time, it kind of felt...
Did they make a that wizard came from the moon joke?
Not that I remember.
Okay.
Yeah. Might have missed it though. Could have been there.
Okay.
Because they could have done it.
Who knows?
Some really cool missions. Some really, really cool missions. Exciting missions. Cool missions that go through public spaces where like things happen. Just a really good ride and kind of tying the story all together, if you know that stuff, like again, I try to follow, but like tying kind of all the story together. Spoilers, kind of revealing, not revealing, but revealing the darkness. Remember they always talk about the darkness in Destiny 1 and 2. Now the darkness is going to be something.
Is Destiny just Kingdom Hearts?
Seriously, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Like, is it gonna be? We're gonna play the Kingdom Hearts DLC, and all of a sudden, like Vex are popping around, and I don't know.
But yeah, cool missions, and then you just traditional stuff. You go into that end game grind, the weekly reset of like going through Crucible, going through Gambit, going through Strikes, going through Nightfalls, going through Flashpoints, doing all that stuff with the ultimate reward being the raid, which is, of course, hard and awesome.
So how did this raid stack up to other raids you've experienced?
I have not done every single one. I've done a great deal of Destiny 1 and 2 raids.
Sure. That's okay. Just what you've experienced.
From what I've done, it is not the best, but not the worst. So like above average, above the middle. Because it's like really, really solid, but it still felt kind of...
I feel like...
It felt refined. Again, this one didn't innovate really, but it felt really refined for a raid, and it had all the cool beats. It was just really smooth. It's a really smooth raid and a really good challenge. Just really cool stuff. Like really good variety. You're running through different things together, like passing things off, and you have to really pay attention to the ads in this one. It's not just the boss. Like the ads really, you have to clear all these wave-based ads, and You have to stand next to each other, and there's platforming, and you have to like connect this line with each other. Just so cool, man. Destiny raids, so much fun.
I feel like you're describing Shadowkeep as like you were hungry and you had a meal, and
Yes.
now you're satiated.
Yes.
And it did that.
Yep.
Like it's not.
I'm gonna
you're
play
not-
Festival Delight for like probably 2 weeks.
Right. You don't feel like necessarily on a mission to like spread the gospel of Shadowkeep, but it hit the notes it needed to hit.
Yeah, and I think right now at launch, to me, the content is a little light quantity-wise. I see the outline and what they're doing now. They're definitely going for the live service. They're going for seasons. There's a battle pass now. They're going for like the slow trickle of content. Really cool thing in the tower. There were like, there's construction going on of something.
Oh, nice.
They're
Yeah,
building
that's
something
good.
that kind of updates each
Love
week.
that.
Doing stuff like that. Adding, again, the Halloween is awesome because it's the Halloween event. I think maybe another like Vex offensive and a dungeon. Like a lot happens then. But the roadmap
Yeah.
through the year, I feel like maybe I'm asking for too much, but I don't know. Like, again, I hard quit it after the review and after I did the raid because I was like, all right, I'm done. I love Destiny, but like,
Yeah. I mean, you
I've-
also
I've-
have other games that you have
there's
to move
other,
to.
yeah. So it's like, can they add stuff that kind of keeps you going? Like I within this month of October, there's 2 exotic quests and like all this stuff, but like, can they maintain that? And is that stuff interesting enough to get more than the hardcore faithful coming back?
I feel like the way that they've talked about Destiny 2, though, is they're like, hey, we understand this is going to be a game that a lot of people pick up and put down, and like we're aware of that.
Yeah.
We're okay with that.
And the fact that they're catering to the dedicated is like good on them. Like
Right.
people that love Destiny, like that's
Right, and that's
awesome.
the sweet spot you want to be. Like if you're pleasing them and
Yeah.
you're getting a bunch of new people in at the
Totally.
same time, if you can keep making that happen, that seems like a good spot.
Yeah. So yeah, Shadowkeep's in an awesome place. I got to play it on PC for the first time.
Nice.
Steam, it is awesome.
Yeah.
Just so good.
I had played Destiny 2 on PC before
Mm-hmm.
when it originally came out, but just dipping back in on Steam, it was like, oh,
Amazing.
Like,
Incredible.
can't play this. And what's great is it's like, oh, I have my PS4 character. I
Yeah.
can bring that
Yeah.
over.
Brought that over.
That
have
was
all my
really
Steam
nice.
friends, free to play. It's a really
Yes.
good time for Destiny.
Yes.
Can't wait for next week. A lot of good stuff coming out for it.
It's also a really good time for a Plague Tale Innocence.
Yeah.
Blood Pact.
Yes,
Season
Blood.
Plague Tale. Game I really like. Game Huber really likes. Do you really like it?
Yeah, it was actually it's really like one of the things that really impressed me is after my stream, like I watched Developer Diary and like 40 people, like what?
Yeah.
You guys are like, pushing like better, more relatable characters than a lot of the big games that are out there.
Gives me a Hellblade vibe,
Yeah,
smaller
I was saying that
scale
today
and-
too.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a very Hellblade, very encouraging to see that people can make that kind of thing because
Yeah.
like you come to expect like you just kind of have to like just kind of take a smaller game for what it is. It's like, oh yeah, they don't have that big of a
It's like
budget or
indie
whatever.
AAA.
Yeah.
I love it.
And like there are definitely some rough edges in Plague Tale, but it's such a pretty game. And the the voice work and everything and how those kids like feel like believable kids and like how kids would react in these situations and start arguing with each other and
Bonds.
and it's funny because like I went in there, with Blood Pact we have like monthly themes and like you've got to do some kind of spooky thing. I was gonna like try to, like, we don't have to do a spooky thing this month, but like people want to do spooky things.
Nice.
And like, but I put Plague Tale on the list, even though it doesn't fit the horror genre necessarily, but it is.
Did you get to the first big
very-
encounter?
Yeah, I mean,
How much have you played on Blood Pact?
about 3 hours.
3 hours. Nice.
Yeah,
nice,
so
nice.
I think so. I've
Yeah,
like
nice.
walked over people's bodies and stuff.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Such a brutal game.
But that's the thing, and I think that's what it is like it feels like it's not like you're not getting headshots for the thrill of it or anything. It's like once you got to take somebody out, like you feel bad.
Feel the
for
kill,
doing it.
dude.
Yeah.
Feel the kill in Plague Tale for sure.
Yeah, something that I like about the way that Plague Tale handles violence is it feels like they kind of acknowledge the nastiness of it, but they're also very realistic with it. Like, hey, I had to make a choice, and I've got people that I need to protect. And yeah, it's just a very grounded take on violence that I feel like.
The death animations when they like get you
Are horrifying.
so intense. It's like, oh, unsettling.
That made me think of like Tomb Raider death animations.
Tomb Raider.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
Some of them though, because of the rag dolls would be like a little
man, some of
jarring.
them, though, are just like you're just oh
Yeah, like, whoa.
and not like in
Shocking. Just shocking.
Yeah, shocking. Not like so over the top that you're like, oh man, that was gross. It was like, oh, that was like believably painful.
Classic like tripwire spikes coming out.
How are you finding the combat, I guess, and kind of the puzzle solving and just the actual gameplay itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things to me is like, in a way, like the combat isn't really combat so much as it is puzzle solving. You know, it's one of those things where it's like you don't fight somebody because you want to fight somebody. You fight somebody because you don't know how else to get through this situation. Like you've got to either stealth around them or you've got to take them out, and you've got to make that decision.
Right. I think maybe a better way to say it is you're absolutely right that the stealth is a puzzle in its own right, but then there are also times where you don't have to worry about enemies at all. And just maybe kind of the balancing between hey, we're telling story now, we're talking to people, hey, we're in a stealth section where you have to avoid people, or hey, we're just, trying to move things around the environment so we can progress without,
Yeah, I mean, so far it feels like they've had enough variety of things and having a good balance of just, you're in this horrifying situation with the rats, but then you're in a totally different situation when you have the inquisitors or the townsfolk or whoever
right.
That are chasing you and having to think about things differently, and again, just like some of the situations that you get put in, and like the only way to solve this is really
throwing a rock at someone's head.
Well, no, but I'm trying not to spoil the actual moment, but it's just like, it's like, oh, this is bad. Look away. So yeah, just for, and especially because there are times when like you see, oh, this is what's about to happen, and you don't want to do it, but you don't have a choice, and you're just like, all right, I see where this is going, but I really wish it wasn't going there, and having the little boy that Hugo that you're having, the brother you're having to take care of, and he's like, don't do it, and they're like, I'm sorry, there's no other way.
Hugo hype.
Yeah.
How have you with stealth? Sometimes I feel like stealth. I feel like this generation, you and I have talked about it before, Hubert, where it's like, man, like, can these guys even see me? Like, sometimes stealth feels so forgiving that you're
Can't
like,
see me.
okay, like if
out of your vision cone. I'm out of your vision cone.
Right.
If this was more believable, I wouldn't be able to get away with this stuff. Do you feel like there's appropriate tension when you're having to sneak around enemies or rats?
Yeah, I guess with the rats, it feels sort of like a matter, at least so far. It just feels like a matter of like timing it out, because the sticks or whatever don't burn as long as a real torch, and so you're just trying to figure out, like, okay, how far can I get, or is there another way? To like, do I see all the pieces to make the path that I need to make? But yeah, I don't know how threatening like the actual humans are in terms of the stealth, because it always feels like there's at least again at this point, it always feels like there's a way to remain hidden, until you've got it sorted out, until you see like where he's going and where the other person's going, and the times that I feel caught out is just because there was something I didn't see, or I turn a corner and it's like, oh, there's a guy here, and I wasn't ready for him.
Yeah, I feel like the balance of that game is really well done. Like, the stealth sections are really visible, you know? It's like, okay, I'm clearly supposed to go this way. Oh, there's a thing I can throw, you know, to distract him here. Okay, I'm going to throw that there.
Yeah.
Which at times made me feel like I was kind of on autopilot. But at the same time, the world was so threatening.
Do you know people that hang skillets outside?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever met anyone that hangs skillets out to dry?
Essential. I'm glad they did. I'm glad they leave them out. But I think the world's so threatening, and you still have to pay attention, you know? Like, it is kind of linear stealth. You know, you see the bushes over there. Okay, I got to go obviously over there because those are like the only bushes in the area. Stuff like that.
The only time where it kind of fell apart for me is I think they had a pretty good balance throughout most of the game, but at the very end, it started becoming a bad stealth trope where it was like, okay, I feel like I'm learning more through trial and error.
For sure. Because the game like pretty much always wants you to do it their way. There's not a lot of room for freedom.
Right. And I think when
for a while is fine.
When they ramp that up at the end, that like, oh, I got to do it this way starts to get a little bit frustrating.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like
it's not
a huge demerit or anything on the game.
Nope.
Blood, do you think this is one of your favorite games of the year? Tough question.
Yeah.
Simple question.
Tough question.
Game that
3
I'm not
hours
finished
in.
with. Yeah.
Blood sees the potential.
I mean, I
Blood
don't know if I
hates
would
it.
call it one of my favorite games of the year, but I definitely, again, like we're talking about like Hellblade or whatever. Like
It falls into kind of that category for you.
yeah, it's something that like I really can appreciate like how well that they've done in creating like, because it's this funny thing because it's totally insane, like the situations that are happening, but yet it feels believable. It feels like you're in a very grounded real world thing, even though there's hundreds of pig carcasses surrounding you,
Right.
and rats exploding out of the ground. But it feels like you're really in that situation to the point that like you start questioning. I was like, was there a moment in the Black Plague when the rats were this crazy?
Yeah.
You know, I'm like probably not. It's an exaggeration for sure.
Right.
Have you seen Black Death with Sean Bean?
No.
Good Halloween movie. Check it out. Sean
Does
Bean.
Sean Bean die?
I don't want to say it.
I mean,
I don't want to spoil it.
Sean Bean's
You basically-
you saying
yeah,
Sean
Sean
Bean's
Bean.
A
Yeah,
Black
yeah.
Plague movie with Sean
Yeah, I
Bean.
mean,
If I were a betting man.
Yeah. That's
If
what
I
mean.
were in Vegas.
Speaking of Sean Bean, though, I mean, Game of Thrones at its best. I mean, that was a quality of it that I think worked for so many people. Where it was like, yes, fantastical things are happening, but that stuff is kind of on the side. It's not taking away from like this situation is believable enough that it doesn't go crazy with it. Just like kind of sneaks it in when it can. I guess that's not like true for all of it, but it's not overwhelming. It's grounded fantasy.
Yeah.
I think is the way to say it, which works. There is one more thing that we're going to talk about, and it's not a video game.
Ooh.
Hubert, this is something that...
Bleach.
Yes, now I know why you say that. I thought you were talking about the anime Bleach for a second.
Nope.
But no, we're not talking about the anime Bleach. We were talking about the show Watchmen.
Watchmen.
Oh.
So back in college, I believe it was, I read the graphic novel for Watchmen. I really liked it. Everybody likes Watchmen. I actually liked the Zack Snyder movie when I saw it.
Dude, I
in theaters.
love the
I know
movie.
it
I
doesn't.
love it.
It doesn't have the best reputation, but I liked it.
It has a pretty good rep, but
Does
not
it?
a good. It's a little divisive,
okay.
but there's fans for sure.
I feel like I've definitely seen some.
I'm a big fan. I love the movie.
I liked it. Anyway, the reason why I say all that is because I went into the show not having the highest expectations, and I saw the trailers, and they didn't fill me with confidence. I thought the trailers were like intriguing, maybe, but not like, oh my god, I'm convinced that the show is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Holy hot hell,
Yes,
Watchmen! Yes. I was gripped the whole time. It was a stellar premiere. I think it tackled a lot. I think it did a lot well. I think it handled stuff from Watchmen itself really well without being like too reverent or reverential in a really like obnoxious way. While at the same time like creating its own space and creating its own characters and feeling contemporary in pretty powerful ways.
Powerful, dude.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why was it powerful?
Coming off the Leftovers, dude. Did you watch Leftovers?
I have seen the first season of The Leftovers,
Okay.
and I've seen a little bit of season 2. I've not seen all of The Leftovers.
Like, momentum, dude. Just so good. Getting that vibe of just like grounded, but also existing in its own space, you know? Like carrying over from obviously the legacy of Watchmen. So like dealing with all that, but then also incorporating like what is happening in the world today.
Yeah.
So I think I think it struck a really good balance of just obviously respecting the source material while also being modern. Blown away.
Right. So
Watch it twice.
the show tackles racism. Obviously, still a like awful, terrible, constant problem that we're dealing with in so many different ways right now in contemporary society. But I think sometimes when shows or media try to tackle contemporary problems, they don't, it feels like they're just like satisfied with bringing it up, that they don't really go anywhere with it. And I think there's kind of this, like the world that Watchmen presents is so interesting because it's almost our world. It's almost us, but there are enough things changed that it kind of feels like it's examining it in a new way. And so it's taking these problems, it's taking these things that we're dealing with, but it's putting in this world where the rules are a little bit different. And so I think like it feels like a different perspective, I guess, where like you have this black woman who like is not just a normal woman, who like is kind of like gets dressed up in this outfit, right? Who is a force to be reckoned with, but feels so believable and relatable. Like she's somewhere between like just a normal cop and a superhero. And I think by finding that line with it becomes really fascinating.
Somewhere between like, yo, I want to like kick back and hang out and just hang out, but like, holy shit, you are like a superhero.
Right.
And I'm like, whoa, in awe.
Yeah, Regina King,
dude.
Like
Watch
knocks
it
it
for her. Like,
knocks it out of the park. Yeah.
So sick.
I think something that also helps a show, and I really do want people to watch this if you're at all curious. Do you think you can appreciate it without knowing the world of Watchmen?
Yes, of course. But it is definitely designed as a next, a continuation. So like nods are happening on screen, when things are going by.
I think about like Ozymandias and like how maybe you...
Yeah, and like, they're the squid stuff and just like it's pretty.
There are definitely moments where you're like, what?
Yeah, it's pretty. Even I watched the first episode and I think I know Watchmen really well. Like I've read the book multiple times, seen the movie multiple times, and at the end of it, I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
like it feels
it's a lot
like
to take in.
You just dive into this world,
right?
But it is mesmerizing. It is really, really intense TV that is making you think about like everything while also being entertaining. Like it is like you said, straddling the line. It is good start.
Yeah.
And I heard it only gets better. A lot of people criticized the pilot. Even critics criticized the first episode, and then like the next episodes are just even better.
If they're even better, like I adored that first episode.
Yeah.
I really loved it. I thought it was fascinating. The music as well by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, very, very good. That was to your point about it being a lot to take in. I think that's true, but that's also something that I respect about it is it feels like it has a lot to tackle, and it kind of lets the tone take care of a lot of the storytelling. So they will name an organization without like explicitly going into, like, you don't have that awkward moment where it's like, here's what we believe, here are the rules of all this stuff. Like,
Totally.
it cuts out a lot of that, and it's like, okay, I'm piecing enough together by how these people are responding to these different parts of the world. It's showing, not telling, right? That classic saying. And I think it is really phenomenal. It has been
hard-hitting action.
Yes!
Meaningful.
Oh my God!
Meaningful violence, dude. Yes. Like the kind of violence you watch and are like, this is not just for fun. This is very intense.
Yes. So
very intense.
Right. Meaningful is the right way to say it. Where it's not like, oh, this just looks cool, because it does look cool.
It does look cool.
It has that kind of raw power to it. But who's fighting who?
And like what is happening?
Yes.
Shockingness.
Yes. Definitely. Yeah. It definitely has that. Because Hubert, and I don't know if you have this problem, but I think it is rare where like action in and of itself, an action scene does much for me anymore. Where there'll be like movies.
John Wick?
Yeah, John Wick is a good example of it working well because of how over the top it is. Like with John Wick, the thing that I'm always surprised at is like, yo, like he like pressed that gun into his face and shit. Like they just made sure that you saw how close he got. Yeah, John Wick definitely has that quality. But I'm just saying in general, there's media that I consume where it's like, I like this, but it's not for the action. Like, the action just kind of washes over me.
Totally.
I kind of tune out when I see it.
Yeah.
I feel like that happens frequently.
I'm very critical of action, and I agree with you. A lot of action is bad.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun because Beth tunes out of all action. Like, only kind of like John Wick because of the theater experience and everything, and like knows because I'm like so hyped on it, like that it's good, you know? I'm like, no, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's funny though, because like good or bad action, it's all just whatever. She's like zoning out.
Yeah.
So it's fun like when I'm super into an action scene and then I can just be like, dude, but all right, this part was really cool because but like this motivation and like this person matters more, so you really want this person to live, and like just love when there's good action, you know? Because a lot of action is like not thought out, or like, you know, typical Hollywood movies, like fast cutting, cut. You don't have a real sense of space for an area. Whereas this was intimate.
Yeah, and I think also for a premiere, I feel like sometimes when you're just getting started with a show, you're like, cool, let's see where this goes, where you're uncertain. You're not maybe on the hook. I feel like there are questions I want answered now, and there are very emotional things that have happened where I feel like I've been on such a journey already. And I love that when you can it's only 9 episodes, but when you can get that in the first episode, so much out of it.
Dude, it's only 9, not 10?
I believe it is only 9 episodes.
Good tip, dude.
Yeah.
Good tip. It's the worst when you go into like episode 8, you think it's 10 or something. Like, all right, it's finale.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I can't wait to watch more.
Yeah.
But if I never watched another episode, I feel like I got so much out of that first episode. So just an extremely strong start.
Definitely.
Watchmen.
Check it out. That HBO budget, hard to top.
Yeah.
It's really hard to top that HBO budget.
I still got to get around to Chernobyl. I've started it, but I have not committed.
I've not finished, dude. It's draining. So draining.
Yeah.
Drains you. Sucks you dry, dude. So heavy.
We may not be John Wick, but we have a little bit of action of our own at this podcast. And we call that the people below us making a lot of noise. No, we call it the HOTTAKE! This week, you might have been able to see this one coming.
Oh boy.
We're going to talk about Bethesda.
Bethesda.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Bethesda.
Hubert, do you know why we're talking about Bethesda?
Yeah, because they're very presumptuous.
In what way are they presumptuous?
Charging for the Fallout annual pass, season pass, whatever the hell pass this is.
I'm going to try to get us up to speed.
Yeah, because I haven't. I'm so checked out of 76 that I saw the news fly by. I saw people complaining about it. I don't actually know what the heck it is.
This segment is relying on reporting from Kotaku, so thank you, Kotaku. Bethesda is now selling $100 annual subscriptions for exclusive Fallout 76 features.
That's
100. 100.
How much is Disney Plus for a year?
Today, the publisher.
how much is
This was
Netflix?
on Wednesday. Today, the publisher said that it will be selling premium subscriptions that will provide players with access to private servers at a cost of $13 a month or $100 a year. Bethesda calls the new program Fallout First and pitches it in a new blog post as a premium membership that offers something players have been asking for since launch. Private worlds for you and select friends. For the cost of that subscription, a player gets access to a private version of the world that they can share with up to 7 players who don't also have to be subscribers. Bethesda also indicates that those private worlds will at some point support mods.
Wait, they don't have to be subscribers, or they do?
They do not.
Okay.
So,
So
one
for the cost-
person can funnel
Share
in.
with up to 7 other players.
Okay.
So you can bring 7 people in. They do not have to be subscribers.
Can they play anytime, or do you have to be logged in? Does the main person have to be online as well?
A good question. I don't know.
Okay. Either way.
In addition to private server access, subscribers get exclusive items, including a survival tent that players can use as a makeshift base and fast travel point, and some unique outfits and emotes. The subscription also doles out 1,650 atoms a month. Atoms are the in-game currency used for microtransactions and can be purchased in bulk from Bethesda for real money. Currently, Bethesda sells a 1,100 atom bundle for $10, which makes the whole Fallout First program very close to simply getting people to commit to buying a lot of atoms each month. Yeah, so they're charging for it, but that is not where we're gonna go with this.
So
that's not the
Okay.
end of the story.
for sure,
But right now, if you're playing 76 without this, remind me, is there a subscription fee just to play it?
No, there's not
Okay.
a subscription fee just to play it.
so it seems like you're just renting a private server, and they're charging you $100 a year,
Yeah, I mean
and
you're
you're also getting some other
yes
meaningless stuff.
you're
really.
getting some other stuff.
Cosmetic,
Yes.
atom currency crap.
To make matters worse, another headline for you: Fallout 76 paid subscription service has not had a good launch. Part of Fallout 76 controversial new paid subscription service, this article was posted on yesterday, is the addition of an unlimited scrap box, which is somewhere players can store all of their junk. Unlimited scrap box. Problem being that some players are finding that the scrap box is bugged in the worst possible way. They're losing everything they put in it.
Oh my god.
There have been multiple reports over the past day,
Code Red.
both on Reddit and on the game support forums of paid subscribers putting loads of scrap into the box, going on with their game, accessing the box to get some of it back, and finding it was all gone. While Bethesda investigates this, they currently believe it's an interface issue. Current support advice is to try opening another player's scrap box on a public server.
So wait, is Scrapbox you're putting stuff in to get scrap, or it's like inventory box you're putting like items in?
I don't remember from my time with the game, but it sounds like this is just where it's your you can put stuff
You
here.
can just your storage.
Store. Yeah,
Your
yeah,
storage.
it's just your
Oh
storage.
my
Yes.
goodness.
Well, but this investigates this. To reiterate, they currently believe it's an interface issue. Current support advice is to try opening another player's scrap box on a public server, which may help in getting the items to show up again. If that doesn't work, they're suggesting restarting the game client or uninstalling and
Blowing
reinstalling the game.
Blow on the disc.
A Bethesda rep told Polygon, "We understand this is not what players expected for their private worlds. We are looking to provide an option in an upcoming patch that will allow Fallout First members to restrict access to the servers more completely." So there's a lot going on here. Fallout 76 has had a rough reception. At E3, they announced that hey, we're adding human NPCs.
Yeah.
Those got delayed until next year. And so I think that's kind of where the crux of it is for me. Is
you're gonna start charging?
And this, I am certainly
before-
not the first person to say this, but
Gosh.
I think the number of people saying it makes it so incredibly obvious. Where it's like, okay, you pissed so many people off with the launch of your game. 2 out of 10 from Easy Allies. Okay, myself included. You announced this thing, okay? People are like, hey, yeah, cool, you probably should add that. Then you delay it, and then you're charging people for money for something that doesn't work in a game that is primarily known for things not working.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? Maybe to frame the conversation, and I guess I should also say, as a caveat, I have not... Maybe there were updates today. Maybe there's an update to this story. It is constantly evolving. I apologize if I have not included all of the information. But, panelists,
Like what?
is it
the hell?
should Bethesda be charging for this service in the first place? Let's start there.
All right. So, being reasonable, being rational. I feel like paying for private servers is not too crazy. I feel like that's been going on for a while in the course of PC gaming. You know, buy some private server space. Am I wrong in that?
That is not... You say that, and that doesn't sound familiar to me.
Like private
so I'm not
servers?
sure. Yeah, like
Like
private-
Battlefield and
Yeah, and like
Right.
like Counter-Strike and just like renting out like private
Sure.
servers. I just feel like that part isn't too weird, but at the same time, my heart says that because of the problems that have happened with Fallout 76, that charging that much for it or charging at all, like that it should be a goodwill move now. You know, you should be trying to remedy all the bad you've done by like taking maybe a hit. Like if private server space is costing Bethesda
Right.
money, like maybe you just for once have to willingly take a hit to appease
with
your loyal fans.
What I want to say about the private server thing, what is when you're saying like, hey, this seems reasonable, I feel like a company coming at it with like in this way, this service way, with this big push with all these other things, this feels different to me.
Yeah.
This feels out of the ordinary to me. And maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe it's not that out of the ordinary. But
Just the private server aspect,
packaging private servers this way
is
a little-
weird.
Yes.
For
Yeah,
sure.
That's
if
what
it
I'm
was
trying-
its own thing, I guess, yeah, then it would be better. But it's like this weird subscription now and like getting all these other, trying to like disguise it too by throwing in currencies and little cosmetics just feels really slimy and shady. So,
But I mean, I'm trying to think. So like a lot of times when people, because maybe this is the crux of the issue, is like when something has private server support, like generally don't you just like, if you have access to a server some other way, or you can get a cheaper server somewhere else, then
Right.
like, oh, I'll just get this, and you do whatever you want to it. Whereas this still like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like when they had like all the paid mods and stuff.
yeah.
Right? It's like,
Right.
oh, we're
The-
going to charge you for this thing that you guys, should have been able to do anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
We're trying to control something a
Yeah.
little bit more. We're
Yeah.
trying to make a buck off something. A
A
little bit
buck. Dude, $100.
more. Right.
That is so. I say it again, dude. It's presumptuous. It's
Well,
ridiculous.
I-
It's absurd, dude.
I feel like
$100. Like
this is hard to process in a game that is like
give
well
the feature.
received. I feel like.
What?
I feel like
Oh yeah, if they were doing this for a great game, it would be like, what the hell?
right.
Yeah.
I feel like this is something that would. I don't know. I feel like this kind of aggressive, like, hey, pay this much
Aggressive.
money,
Yes.
would maybe bat some eyes on a better game, but the fact that it is this game specifically after all of the storms that they've been through, like how do they think this is gonna work? What do they expect?
And when you put your 100 in, you can still put more in, right? You can keep pumping.
Oh, I mean that's the thing.
There's
That's the
other
thing that they're reporting on.
microtransactions?
Right?
Yeah.
There's an in-game there's an in-game shop where you can spend real money to get atoms to buy cosmetic things. Yes.
It should be shut down, dude. Honestly, shut it down. That's what I say. Shut it down. There's no angle here that I can see that makes this fine, really.
This seems brazen.
Yeah, brazen, dude. Another great word for it. Let's really think it out. Let's really put on our brand manager hats. Let's pretend we're at Bethesda. Let's really try to think of a scenario where this is okay.
That's what I wanted to bring up.
I'm trying to think.
I wonder if you're at Bethesda and you're like, yep, the writing is on the wall. We know people will write their articles. We know people will have their podcast segments. We know we're going to get the angry response on social media. We have the numbers to back it up that there are enough people playing this and enjoying it. They're going to spend it that makes it worth it. So whatever noise is happening, it doesn't matter.
Weather the storm.
Right. But I think what is upsetting is that feels like so cold. Like if you set $100 and you get the rest of Fallout 76 content ever for free. You're in for the expansions or something, then I'd be like, maybe, okay. But my goodness.
Yeah, because I mean, $100 is one way to look at it, but the other way is that there's $13 per month, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
what happens after the year? Then you got to do it again.
Well, yeah, you keep, So, but that's the thing is
so I guess
it's like paying
for an MMO. Yeah, okay, here we go.
But
that's their angle.
That's not how it's like they're trying to change their business model midstream.
Yeah, they're going for MMO.
Okay, but then you compare it to an MMO, and this is having we're going to put human NPCs in it delayed.
Yeah.
I feel like you're just immediately inviting unfavorable comparisons.
How do quests work in this game again? How do you play this game?
You get quests.
Yeah.
Yeah. You will go throughout the world, and there are terminals that you interact with. There are robots that you interact with. You're just not getting them from other humans.
Okay.
So it's like, oh, hey, I'm learning the story of these people who were here, and I'm getting quests to, do various things. There are NPCs. They're just not human.
Yeah.
I feel like you solved it, bud. I feel like the brand managers were like, meh. MMOs do it. They pay $15 a month.
Right, but you can't be...
So let's just do that. Let's just pretend we're an MMO.
You can't be that... It's just hard for me when you have something like Destiny, right? That's like, hey, we're going to make all this stuff free. Mm-hmm. We're going to let you transfer over.
Yeah, you buy the big expansion, so you're in for $35-$40, and then you get that comes with a couple seasons free for the battle pass.
Right.
But you're pretty much in for $40 for a good while with a lot of quality content.
Right. And I think that's what I'm trying to say is it's I could maybe understand this brazenness a little bit better where it's like, hey, we're still Fallout. Hey, we have a lot of people that love us. We have that recognition. This will work out in the end. But it just seems it's harder and harder to understand when you not only have the absolutely terrible life of Fallout 76, just how much shit that game has gotten and how bad it was. On top of, hey, there are all of these games for services that are ticking along excellently. I don't know. And it's not just, I feel like Bethesda just keeps constantly making decisions that, there's so many little screw-ups that you can look back on. It's like, why did this happen? Why did this happen? But this just seems like...
brazen.
Yeah. I don't
brazen,
get it.
Brazen, dude. It's a mind-blowing move.
However, what can really be done about it, right? You make your stink, you don't buy it. But do they still succeed anyway? Like, is there really anything you can do?
Sad thinking about that. I don't know. I mean, I never played it. Never will.
Right.
Not that big a Fallout
it's just one
fan.
of those things that, yeah, with microtransactions in general, it's just like doesn't cost that much to put out there. So if just the 1% of the people pay for it, then
Yeah.
it's worth the money.
We got all this server space. Let's just see if we can
Yeah,
wrangle
maybe
it up.
Is that the angle?
You know?
There's not enough people playing this game.
We got all this extra
We've got
server
all
space.
this extra server space.
Yeah.
What do we do with it? Oh, sell it to somebody.
Rent it out.
I wonder if they're just. I feel like these companies just bank on people forgetting,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is a reasonable thing to bank on. Like things are
Yeah.
just moving so fast
So fast.
that I get it. But I think if you take a look at a company like EA, where they just made so many decisions that pissed people off so consistently that I feel like they've reached a point where it was like it's not like EA can't come out with a game and it will be successful, right? I think Star Wars will be very successful. But also that's partly because Respawn has generated so much goodwill.
Right.
It's not as black and white as I'm trying to make it, but I think EA coming out with anything is treated with at least an initial amount of skepticism.
Yes.
I think that is not a great position to be in. I
No.
do think that they would love to get rid of that. I think that is a
Totally.
powerful thing. And
Reputation,
so,
man.
right. I think when
This is damaging.
right, and so we're kind of in this Fallout 76 moment. I think what will help is to not forget.
Mm-hmm.
So when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, when Starfield comes out, being like, hey, what about Fallout 76?
Mhm.
Or are these problems going to affect your current projects? Like really trying to put their feet to the fire as best you can. However, maybe another question to keep this HOTTAKE going is you said, hey, I've never played it, never going to. I have no interest in returning to Fallout 76.
No.
Clearly, I'm not going to get this. Do you think it is right for us to complain if we're not even playing the game? Do you think there's something we're missing?
There's definitely that angle of like, well, if it's like my my old man, my dad says about sports. As long as people keep going, they're just gonna keep raising the prices.
Yeah.
It is. It's that simple, basic logic. Let's charge, let's see, let's test the waters. Like, this game is already, no offense, this game is already trash that has sullied our reputation. What's a little more? What's a little more for potentially earning back a boatload of money?
Right.
And it is damaging to the reputation because I think of games I love, and brands I love and brands that I don't necessarily
the other thing
love.
of it of we need to and I'm haven't kept up on the developments, but it's like, well, we need to keep investing in making this thing better so it isn't eternally considered a train wreck.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not getting enough
Any
new
money.
people buying it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get the people that are actually playing it to pay more.
I'd love to hear if you play Fallout 76. I'd love to hear what you think. Post in the
Yeah.
comments, please. I honestly,
Yeah.
I would love that perspective of like dedicated 76 players because I see headlines once in a while. You reporting from
people do
Kotaku
crazy stuff in the game. for
talking
sure.
about like cannibal gangs and stuff. There was like after that rocky launch, a couple months after launch, there was a place where like some cool things were happening for a moment. I saw through the
Right.
fog of
But it
the
does
internet.
make me wonder like how that ends up balancing then once you get people like going off to their own little private spaces. Like what does that do to the public space?
Mhm.
Is that going to kind of like
Empty that a little bit.
Yeah, is that going to make things feel emptier or
Mhm.
kind of upset the balance of who's there?
That's a good question.
Great question.
Is the public space just going to be, the crazy people that are harassing everybody, and then all the quote unquote good players go off to their private rooms?
Or is part of the reason you're making the decision because that's something that they're communicating is, hey, this is something you guys have been asking for.
Right.
So maybe it's like, hey,
streamers.
the
This
only-
is big for streaming.
the only people like our player base now are very dedicated people.
Mhm.
So what happens, I guess, to the public space maybe doesn't matter as much. Like, let's just try to give people what they want.
Mhm.
But yeah, going back to what you said at the beginning of this conversation, Huber, you were like, hey, there has to be a better way to do this. There has to be a way to build goodwill. And that's kind of what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
And I feel like audiences are very accepting of that.
Mhm.
If you do it the right way, you can reap amazing rewards. Like
Yeah.
Warframe at launch was rough. And that thing, like, the people adore Warframe. That they've just slowly cultivated this huge and dedicated audience.
Totally.
Same thing with No Man's Sky. Like, think about the vitriol that was around the No Man's
Mhm.
Sky launch.
Now
and,
it's got a good reputation. Now,
Right,
honestly, now
right.
like people think of No Man's Sky and it's go. It's a good game.
and I have not kept up with No Man's Sky, but just from an outside perspective,
Yeah.
the way that it's the mentality that it seems like to me is, all right, we kept our head down and we worked hard to build up that goodwill.
Mhm.
Whereas like this just seems like Fallout is like dropping a bomb,
Yeah.
and it's like
Flexing their corporate muscle.
yeah, it just
Like, yo, we're Bethesda, move out of the way. Coming in.
It just doesn't
$100
feel
bucks
like-
a year, you in?
it just doesn't feel like the right way to go about this.
No, not at all. You know, if they had taken their time, really built it up, got the game in a great place, a stable place, a good place, where everyone's having a good time, you know, the dedicated people, whatever, iron it out, get that those NPCs in there at least first,
Right.
get all your ducks in a row, stabilize, then say, hey, we worked really hard, we got in this place, boom, then now charge.
Right.
Then, you know, I can at least swallow the pill.
Right. Because what I think is interesting about the cases of like No Man's Sky and Warframe is if you do that, the audience will advocate for you.
Yeah.
They will become kind of your messengers. They're like, hey, like I love this. Like,
Mhm.
you really need to give this a chance. And I think that is much more powerful than some heavy-handed, like, we got to make a buck approach. Like,
Yeah.
let people bring other people in. I think it's easier to want to take that jump,
Mhm.
I guess, when you have kind of built that audience that's willing to do that, willing to put in the legwork. So
Yeah.
yeah. Are we ready for some emails?
Yeah.
Yes.
Our first email comes in from Ricky. Video game movies. Hello. Video game movies have had it rough in the past. I think people often dismiss games as just not having good enough stories, when really maybe all they've needed is the right writer/director who cares about it. While it's true that in the past writing wasn't as much of a focus in games, it sure is now. I also think that it's also the most complex medium to adapt, and that the stories that are in games are very much so. And that the stories that are in games very much so and are experienced through so many different lenses. But hey, maybe some of the new up-and-coming directors will have the kind of passion for games and their worlds and stories that we do. I'd love to hear some of your dream video game movies who would direct them. Below are a few of mine.
That's so funny.
The Last of Us, directed by Alejandro Gonzalez.
Interatu.
Yes.
Nice.
Thank you for
Hell
helping me
yeah.
out there.
Hell
Grand
yeah.
Theft Auto, directed by Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, sure.
Resi-
Vice City specifically.
Resident Evil, directed by Robert Eggers. Overwatch,
Ooh.
directed by the Russo brothers. Far Cry, directed by Dennis. You'll have to help me out here again.
Villeneuve. I will never be able to say it right. I'm
Villeneuve?
sorry. Don't hurt me. I'm sorry.
Dude, this one's pretty cool. Diablo, directed by Guillermo del Toro.
Yes.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
He would definitely have his own spin on it, right?
Yeah.
Dead Space, directed by Neil Blomkamp. Mass Effect, directed by J.J. Abrams. Yeah,
That's
it. Crash Bandicoot, directed by Taika Waititi. BioShock, directed by Christopher Nolan. These are good.
yeah.
Um,
That's so funny because I was talking about Ben Wheatley doing Tomb Raider 2
yeah.
at the top.
Do you have any dream director video game combinations that you'd like to see?
No, but I would love a Resident Evil show. like a sick adaptation of The Mansion. Give me the goods. Season 1 is The Mansion. Season 2 is RPD. Or Raccoon, I mean. Raccoon. Raccoon City.
Yeah.
Mansion, Raccoon City.
I feel like what a lot of video game adaptations just get so wrong is they try to copy the games in like the worst way.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think about the Castlevania Netflix show, and a huge reason why it works so well is it takes those games as a base and clearly respects them, but it just tells a story. Like it's just a good story with Castlevania on it. You know, its primary focus is on being a good story. Its primary focus isn't like, oh, hey man, we referenced that thing. Like it's not cheap in that way. I think a lot of video game adaptations are just cheap, or they just like try to tell the same story, or try to tell the same story with like a twist where it's like just
somehow I
create your own space.
still have not seen Assassin's Creed.
I haven't seen Assassin's Creed.
I've finished every game in that freaking franchise almost.
There was a point where I thought about it.
to.
I think I'm over it. I don't think I need
They
to.
reference the character in the movie in some of the games.
I'm okay.
That's fine.
Ties into the lore.
There we go,
Do you read the
man.
comics?
No.
Do you read the
No, I don't.
How about Christopher Nolan does Deus Ex?
Yeah. A Deus Ex was the thing that I had at the top of my head, yeah.
See, that's already tough for me though, because like, okay, you think about Castlevania and how like it's not really this like huge open world that you're exploring in a lot of the Castlevania games. It's not this like huge open world that you're exploring where you have all these choices, you have this character built up. Like I feel like so much of Deus Ex relies on it being a specific type of game where you do have so much freedom.
Totally.
And that feels weird when you're like, okay, now we're gonna tell a linear story.
You're right.
Not saying that you
Crush
can't do
my
it.
dreams.
Like,
You're right.
No, I don't. I think there's a lot there that you can work with.
It's
in
just
terms
Blade.
of
Then it's just a Blade Runner movie. You know.
the investigations and,
Like-
and characters. I mean, there's definitely the Blade Runner elements, but you know, I feel like it. I feel like Deus Ex could really work just because, like, even if you think about the marketing, like, there's a lot of stuff about the Deus Ex world that really was just like, in a way, like just background. You know, like a lot of the stuff they showed in like trailers and stuff, and the monologues that they had in some of those early Human Revolution trailers. It, you know, like you didn't really get that story in what you were playing. That was what was happening around Adam Jensen's story.
Totally.
You know, and so there's a lot of extra room to explore that kind of thing.
Good call.
But then again, like I'm saying, like, you know, getting into those investigations, dealing with the different gangs and corporations and stuff like that. Yeah, I think it could
Or
work.
a show, a miniseries.
Yeah.
Jensen shows up for like an episode.
That's actually another thing that I want to say is
TV is the place.
keep
to do
it
this.
tight.
Yeah.
Because I think I have just some inherent bias built up against adaptations that in some ways is being eroded away thanks to things like Castlevania. But if you keep it short, if you're like, hey, we're not gonna like do a zillion episodes. If you're like, hey, we're gonna tell a really tight story, like then I'm just more naturally inclined to check it out anyway. So have it be a good scope, have it be immediately interesting.
Yeah.
from the
And it's
get-go.
fun. It's always fun. Like Tomb Raider was okay, but it's still it's fun. And number 2, dude, Ben Wheatley, if Kill List is anything to go by, is gonna be sick. But it's fun being in a theater as a fan of video games. You know, you love video games. It's fun being in a movie.
Yeah.
And it's based on a video game. It's a fun experience.
I had that sensation watching Warcraft with you guys.
Yeah.
Where it was like, it's like, but you're also having fun seeing this thing that you love on the screen. Like, yeah, there is inherent appeal.
Like Rampage was awesome.
Was it?
Yes. I
It
highly
looks so lame.
I highly recommend Rampage.
It looks.
I saw it in the theater. In the IMAX. I don't know how it translates to home viewing, but dude, it's The Rock. First of all,
That doesn't. That's not enough, man.
really?
Yeah,
So
that's not enough, man.
I feel like The Rock doesn't make any terrible movies. You know, every movie is
I
at
feel like
least
The Rock makes a lot of movies.
a lot of movies, but at
Yeah.
least a lot of like okay movies. Dude, Rampage is awesome. I'm not
I feel
even
like
kidding around.
I feel like I'm reasonably picky when it comes to movies. You know.
Give Rampage a chance.
I
I'm
don't-
not even kidding around. Do you like giant monsters?
Yes.
So, all right, dude. It's giant monsters with like a heartfelt element as well. I promise.
but it's
Rampage
just-
is solid. I'm not kidding around. It's swimming in sevens in every sense of the word.
I still need to watch Skull Island.
Kong Skull Island.
Oh,
Kong
sure.
Skull Island. Yes. Is it better or worse than Kong Skull Island? See, these are the
It was
choices that I need
less
to make.
serious, I think. So I think I might have enjoyed my time with Rampage more, even though Kong Skull Island might be a better movie. I think I enjoyed my time with Rampage more, honestly.
All right, Hoover.
I think it's on Prime or something somewhere.
What's the name? What's the name of the Mad Max director?
Frank Miller.
Frank Miller.
Yeah. George Miller?
Doom.
George Miller, sorry.
George Miller.
Yeah.
Frank Miller.
Sin City.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah,
George
yeah.
Miller.
What's up?
George Miller doing Doom.
Oh wow.
Like it doesn't even have to have hardly any dialogue.
It'd be
You're
really
just like-
good. It'd
But
be
it would still tell like an amazing story.
Yeah.
And you would have to, the Doom Marine has to get like a artifact or something from one point of Mars to the other. So it has that Fury Road element.
Tom
Or
Hardy's in it.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I like it.
I like it too. Bud. I could see that.
Our next email is keeping politics out of games. Hi, allies. I've been meaning to write this email for a while, but I think this is especially appropriate time to send this email, given what is happening with Blizzard in China. Why is the game industry obsessed with keeping politics out of games? Division 2 went out of their way to say their game is making no political statement, despite saying something like, when DC fell, did you own a gun? And setting their whole game in the White House, the center of politics in America. There are numerous other examples of game companies going out of
Sure.
their way to say they aren't making any political statements, but for brevity, I won't bring up more examples besides the current Blizzard thing. Blizzard's response to this whole controversy is, we would have done the same thing if the opinion was reversed. Now, there are a lot of holes in the statement they released, but I want to focus particularly on their opinion that politics don't belong in esports, because it's not just esports where this forced political neutrality is happening. Like it or not, saying silent is, in many cases, making a political statement. China in particular would love it if everyone kept quiet about what is happening in Hong Kong. What bothers me even more is I haven't heard many people say, keep politics out of books or keep politics out of movies. Why is the game industry so afraid to make any kind of statement when movies and books do it all the time? Do you think this should change?
Well, when you say keep politics out of movies, it kind of depends on what level of movie you're talking about. Like, I feel like a lot of games are definitely going for the mass market, right? And movies have more avenues to be more nuanced and more niche. But I think that...
Do you think that's true? I think that... I don't know that I agree with that.
Movies have more avenue.
more different ways to put out things that can be political and hit their...
Yeah, I feel like it's
Sorry.
a lot easier for like a couple people to make a movie than a couple people to make a video game.
Right.
Oh,
I feel like there's a lot more volume too. So many movies.
If you say it in terms of like actually creating the thing,
Mhm.
yes, but I think like I wouldn't say that. Like there are a lot of ways and places that you can make a game. I
Mhm.
guess
Sure.
there are
Yeah.
a bunch. I guess what I'm trying to say is there are a bunch of different scales.
But
of
I'm just
game.
saying that like most games, maybe because the budget expectations and stuff. But I think like just when we're talking about these publishers, the people that are saying these things, you're talking about. I mean, it's like you're talking to like Warner Brothers Pictures
Exactly.
or Columbia or something. Like you're talking about the hugest mass marketish things, and particularly, I think like in the political climate the way it is, to where it's like, oh, if you're on the other side, you're dead to me. Like, no, they want everyone to buy this game,
right?
across all the lines, and in however many dozens of countries where there's all kinds of additional issues.
And there's not a lot of like I feel with movies and books, there's a lot of auteurs. There's a lot of people with things to say that say them in their writing. I feel like there's less of that in video games, like development. it's more team focused.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whereas like the film director or the author
Sure.
is
Yeah.
like explicitly saying something and is some
the first thing you see in Assassin's Creed. Hey, we've got a diverse
Mhm.
group of people here, different religious backgrounds,
Mhm.
different this, different that.
cultural
Like,
beliefs. Yeah.
like the first thing you see
Mm-hmm.
anytime one of those starts up, because simply because the first game was set, in the Crusades, and they're like, oh, we don't want people to think that like we're anti this or that,
Mm-hmm.
We don't want, people going crazy because they're bad guys or Templars.
So yeah, I think because just again with back to the movies and books, just auteurs saying things, I think it is harder to make a big budget game with a political message because so many hands are on it.
Well,
You know?
and so many studios, historically have tried to avoid having like the directors have that much voice.
Mhm.
There's like a lot of like kind of second guessing, or like, okay, move somebody else onto this series now, like kind of in the way like how like Call of Duty kind of juggles between, so it's like there's never like one person like steering that ship, right? Like it goes wherever the next studio takes it.
What I do think though, and what I think Patrick is speaking to beyond the game companies is like I don't understand the idea of like, oh hey, if you're talking about games, you can never talk about politics like that.
Sure.
Like it's not. While I get where Patrick is coming from, and there is a definite effort to be evasive about that, there are other times where it's like, no, clearly this is being political. This is tapping into this, and so to try to avoid it completely, I don't think is a great idea. But it's also hard. I also think it's hard. I think from just somebody whose job it is to cover games, where sometimes you feel like, am I equipped to say this? Am I equipped to see this and understand this and say it? And then there's also like, it's hard. I think it's easy to be afraid for a number of reasons, for sure. But I think if your idea is keep politics out of it completely, that's not going to work. Like, despite everything you guys were saying about games being these huge teams, there's still people who are still informed by the world and the events that are happening and reading the news. Like, it's not like they're these robots making these things. Like, even subconsciously, that stuff seeps in, right? And so to stamp it out completely seems like a fruitless effort.
Yeah, I agree.
Our last question comes in from Tyler. Hello, Ben and Allies. Do fighting games have the most to gain from crossplay? So Maximilian Dude released a video talking about his thoughts on crossplay. Most of the time when crossplay comes up, it's in the context of shooters. Fortnite started the trend and Call of Duty is continuing it, and now most high-profile online multiplayer games are shooters. So I never really thought about how this would affect fighting games until Max's video. I actually have not seen this video yet. The FGC is massive, but it is very diverse in how many different series or games are played and on different systems. It's a community that is made up of many different isolated groups, which makes the FGC very unique for better or worse. Because of this, releasing a fighting game that is not in an established series is a huge risk, but I think crossplay would help with this a tremendous amount. Crossplay takes one of those walls separating some of the communities. This also helps shooters, but you will always have the division of keyboard and controller players. This isn't a problem for fighting games, except maybe different versions have different frame rates or performance. Do you think bringing certain game communities together through crossplay could help some smaller fighting games in the future get larger matchmaking pools, keeping its players more engaged? Thus, developers supporting the game longer is a possibility. Max brings up examples of the upcoming Guilty Gear and Brawlhalla as games that could benefit. Games that would do fine without crossplay but could benefit nonetheless. We'd love to hear what you guys think. Thanks for all your guys' hard work and being such a jolly part of our lives.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything with multiplayer is.
Let us all play together.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to benefit, and it doesn't sound like the technical hurdles are significant at all. Like I remember, again, one of the few games to jumped into crossplay early is Space Lords, the game I went to see in Spain. It's originally what's something Planet. I forget what the original name of that game was.
Lost Planet.
No, but they were, even when I was there, even when the game was still in development, they're like, we've got crossplay between Xbox and PC and crossplay between PS4 and PC, but like they couldn't do between Xbox and PS4,
Right.
just because of politics,
Right.
essentially, or the rules.
Politics, there it is.
But but now, like I think that they've managed to make that work now that Sony's more open to that. So yeah, I think it's particularly something like that's a smaller community of players that are interested in this game, just taking away as many barriers as possible.
Right.
Whether it be a fighting game or anything.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think for a lot of people, whether you think this is true or not, I think for a lot of people, just the idea of playing a fighting game online is like really intimidating. Like I think that it's scary to a lot of people, and so anything that you can do to make it easier to play with a friend or to some of it is just mental, right? Where if you're like, oh, it has crossplay, so there's going to be a larger amount of people, so maybe there will be more people that suck. Maybe it won't just all be sharks. We joke about that sometimes, right? Where it's like, oh man, we want to check in with this game, but it's all sharks now, and it's not fun losing all the time. And so even if you're just tricking yourself and you're like, oh yeah, it'll be easier, that helps. That might get you to boot up the game. So yeah, I think this is a great idea.
Love crossplay.
And I think this email
open the
covered
floodgates.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
honestly,
too, I think there can be some apprehension too, where like in a way it increases sales because people want to get a game, but then they hesitate because they're not sure what their friends are going to play on.
Right.
And then so like, oh, maybe I'll wait, maybe I'll see what people are doing, and then they don't buy it right then, and they end up moving on and playing something else.
Right. Or like, let's say deeper into this game's life, like a game goes on sale on Steam, very likely occurrence, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I want to get this, but like, is anybody even still playing it? Where, again, just removing barriers. So.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. I like that. We had a nice up and down in terms of like serious, and now we're bringing positive, bring people together. A nice array of emotions. Thank you so much to Michael Huber, to Daniel Bloodworth for your passionate opinions on video games. Thank you, viewers, so much for watching. If you would like to send in an email, if you would like to have us discuss it on the show, please email askeasyallies@gmail.com. Once again, that is askeasyallies@gmail.com. And we will see you next time.